What the fuck are reading socks?
Reading socks are the most comfortable socks you can ever get. Yo, you guys want to get a gift for a girl? Go to Indigo, get reading socks.
And welcome back to another episode of Frequency and Friends. We're back with season 2. I believe we're on episode 6. We were just discussing. Six. Yeah, we made it to 6. I didn't think we were going to get past 2 or 3.
Are we sure on that number? I think we're just making it up.
For now, we'll just say episode.
Right now, it's episode 6.
All right.
We all made it back in. We got the full team here. Jyoti Dillon was here with us. He had to head out to go sing a song or something. But we got a really special guest in the building today. He's a hometown native. He comes from the west end of Rexdale, and his name is Humble the Poet. Thank you, Humble, for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Humble was very accommodating. We know your busy schedule. Half the time you're here, half the time you're in LA, so we caught you at a good time.
Perfect time.
And we appreciate you coming out. Humble, we got a lot to talk about, so I'm gonna start from where I got stuck actually with you. I was trying to research you, trying to figure out a bit of your story from way back. I'm talking like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
I know that you used to be a teacher. You used to teach, is it middle school or high school?
Junior school.
Junior school.
Yeah, I taught grade 4 and then I taught grade 3.
So I'm going to actually let you take this right over, right from the top. And I kind of want you to just tell myself, my friends here. Sorry, let me introduce everybody before we get into that. I got Jay Static to the left of me, DJ KSR, we got DJ M, then of course Humble, myself, Goldarai as well. So Humble, what I was saying is I want you to kind of just take over the mic for a minute and really explain to people, 2008, that's 10 years ago. So a decade ago, you were teaching and then you were artistic, or you had a bit of artisticness, I'm going to say that word if that's a real word, in you. You had to get it out, you had to do something to get it out. Take us back to that time and kind of tell us about what was going on with you at that time.
Yeah, I think after I became a teacher, so after you graduate school and you join the workforce, you don't have anything to do after work. So you try to figure out what are you going to do after work. There's no homework, there's no follow-up, there's none of that. Mm-hmm. And I literally saw something on TV. It was like Oprah that said, if you have a creative juice in you, if you have a creative urge and you don't exercise it, you can actually develop ulcers. It hurts your health. Wow. And I never thought about that. Uh-huh. So I was just like, and throughout, probably since like I was 8 years old, I was always writing stories. I was always writing poetry. I was just doing creative stuff. And so just looking for ways to do different things. And then I went on YouTube and I started seeing like, this dude from Hawaii having friends with these pretty ass girls in Australia who were friends with these people in like, Italy. And it was just this global community. And I was like, how do I tap into this global community, mainly for the girls, but it's just thought as well though the community was super cool.
Well, most of the things we do, we've always discussed.
It's always motivated by girls,
girls,
impressing
exactly.
girls, and so that's where from that point I was spending a lot of time on Harmon and Babu. Mm-hmm. Shout outs to Archery Club and all the wonderful things they do, and from there they were talking shit one day. We started recording. We started Harmon the Hater.
Well, those that don't know, that's Harmon the Hater and Bubblicious. So they're known for YouTube. They're YouTube sensations.
Harmon's not known for YouTube, but the funny part is, the reason why so many people are into YouTube is from Gunwar or Humble and
Harmon and Bubble. Yeah.
You were explaining that to me earlier today.
Yeah, because he actually went from like. Okay, so he was a teacher and then he started rapping. I'm like, no.
That's what I thought. I thought you quit the teaching thing to get into rap.
No. So what happened was, again, just after school, just hanging out. So at that point, me and Harmon became really good friends because we were the two sober guys who still like to party.
Yeah.
So, and I met him through my cousin Jatinder, who people know as Chef Latigre. That's my Pua de Munda. And he brought him to a party one day. We connected because we're like, hey, we can go have fun. We can go to clubs. We can talk to girls, but we're not necessarily going to get fucked up. Mm-hmm. And from that, hanging out with him, and he has a very distinct personality because he's an older brother in his house. So he always got opinions on everybody and what they do. And he hates a lot. And then I remember I used to have him saved in my phone as Grasshopper. So I'm like, you're always telling me what to do. You realize I'm like a few years older than you. You're Grasshopper. So he'd always hate on shit. And I just thought it was hilarious. And then one day at one of my friend's house in Rexdale, he started hating on Argyle when Argyle was the shit. So I recorded him, and the premise was to record him hating and then to just have commentary in text, just making fun of his hate.
Yeah.
So that was me behind the scenes, and I didn't have the juice or anything like that to be in front of the camera back then. And then that took a little bit of a life of its own. I mean, the first time I think I tagged along with them to a party and getting recognized and realizing that, hey, go to weddings, people recognize you. Like, people started to notice you, and you're like, yo, this is useful. Like, we can go places and not get we can go places and get recognized. We can go places not invited and be welcome. We can go to parties and not like really dress up and still
I
get
actually
attention.
took advantage of that. JK, Chef Latigra's little brother, we were actually partying. Me, him. Shout out to Bmagic, he's in the house as well. And we were at like a falafel place, and the guy saw JK, and he goes, "You do the YouTube videos?" And JK's like, "Yeah." We were pretty wasted. It was like middle of the night, and he made our food, and then he wouldn't take money from JK, and he was like, "No money, just take it. You know, I love what you do." I was like, "This is dope. I'm hanging out with you all the time." You know.
And that became one of the additional motivations, and it was an icebreaker because girls already knew who you were. Like, I saw you, and I'm talking about like 800 views. Like that, and it was enough.
And this was YouTube was out at this point.
YouTube was probably a year old, 2 years old at that point. New. And I really wanted to get into this community of just people around the world. Thought it was super dope.
You had a camera that was your camera?
No, I don't think so. I think they had a camera.
Because I saw some of the editing you guys were doing on that, like making guys disappear off the couch and all that. Who was all that?
I was editing.
That was all
Windows
you?
Movie Maker, yeah.
Wow.
I was editing. Wow. So it was like a week worth of editing on Windows Movie Maker to make like a very simple episode. And then I think what it was the first couple of episodes were very organic, super organic. They happened whenever we were chilling. We'd chill for half the night, then come up with an idea and shoot it. And then when I tried to kind of regiment it a little bit more, like, we gotta do this once a week, we gotta do what have you, I started bringing my cousins on, started bringing JK, started bringing Jatinder, and then, you know, everybody was still new to it. So like some of them, like, they had to take a couple shots before we started filming, and then sometimes they took too many shots and they couldn't stay on point. So it got a little bit wiry and crazy. And at the same time, like, I started dating a girl who connected with me off that show. She was like, "Yo, you're that sexy voice behind the scenes. You're this, whatever." But at the same time, you know, and she was kind of like, "Yo, what else do you do?" And I was always writing. I was always doing all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, well, Harmon connected me with Jay Static.
Were you Humble the Poet at this time?
No, not at all.
Not yet.
No, that was
I've never heard this question. Do you have any other aliases? This is a sidetrack completely.
When
I'm curious if you had Humble the Poet before Humble the Poet. Like,
before Humble the Poet, was there a rap name?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, there wasn't. It was not.
There was
supposed to be more after Humble the Poet, but more didn't come after that. Yeah, and then Harmon, you know, when I told Harmon that, you know, I can rap, I want to do this type of shit, and at that point, I had only gone to like some dude's basement in Jane and Finch, some dude's place in like J section of Brampton, some just random places. Yeah, straight up. It was just random spots, random dudes, mattresses, and all that type of stuff. But it was just really recording with these guys, and everybody was showing love. Like, they all said, "Yo, you know what you're doing," and I was still brand new. And I think the first time I recorded a track was for some girl I was dating, gave her a birthday gift. Everything revolves around girls.
Oh man, do you remember the rap?
No, but I sounded like Loon. I have it. I have the track. I have it somewhere on my I have it saved in my Dropbox. I can forget that. But yeah, when Harmon connected me with JJ was he was more of a student of the recording and the engineering, and he was producing, and he had a couple of beats. And
actually, you mind if JJ tells the story from his perspective, because he mentioned a bit of it today?
So from my end, I was recording with people who weren't really experienced, in my knowledge, weren't really experienced. Like, we would do like a bar, and then we'd have to replace that bar, and then go back and keep going forward. Like, literally, the song would take way too much longer than it should have taken.
3 months.
Yeah. But then when Harmon introduced me to Humble, he shows up, and the first thing he said, I was like, "Oh, are you gonna write it, or what are you doing?" And he's like, No, I got it. I'm like, "Okay, where is it?" He's like, "Right here." I'm like, "All right." So I'm like, "You're gonna do the whole thing off the top?" And he's like, "Yeah." And we literally just, the 2 mattresses that we had set up, Mike and this guy just went in, did the full first 16. I remember that. And then we listened to the 16. He's like, "Okay, I want to replace this, this, and this." I'm like, "All right, cool." Cut those out, and boom. First verse was done in like 20 minutes. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Wow. It was, and because I was reading a book called The Art of Rap by Stickman. That's one half of Dead Prez. And he said, if you can't do it 10 times perfect, don't go to the studio.
So you wrote your bars, you memorized them, did them over, and then once you had it 10 times over, you're okay. I'm good to go.
Yeah, but the mindset wasn't to like be good, the mindset was you're going to a studio, you're most likely going to have to pay hourly.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. They don't charge you per song.
No.
They charge you hourly.
Yeah.
So if
the
you fuck
longer I
around,
take in there.
the longer it takes. And then at that point, but I was most recording with people like and their homies or their whatever. So they were a little bit more forgiving. And I was watching other people and seeing how long it took them to do stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to eventually start paying people. So I need to get this right.
Yeah.
For me, it was seeing it like, because usually when people write and then they're reading and they're rapping whatever they just wrote on from a paper, it's whack. It's like someone trying to tell a story off of a book. It's whack.
Yeah.
But if you memorize it, the emotions there, the feelings there, everything's there. That's what I took from it. That's what I think I gained knowledge. Like having it memorized, your feeling, your emotion, everything like that is present.
You're focusing less on what you have to say, and you can focus more on how you want to say it.
Okay,
Because you're not thinking about what are the next words.
Well, poetry came natural to you, or is that something you studied and learned?
Well, we're Punjabi, man, so that's natural to everybody. I think that's just in the blood.
Yeah.
And I think years ago, going to a Chaos concert, there was a guy named Ian Kamau who opened for him, and this guy was doing spoken word. I'd never heard of it. And spoken word took all the excuses out of being a poet, because it's like you don't need a beat, you don't need music, you don't need shit, you just need your voice. So I watched him do it. And then I got into the spoken word.
Those of us who don't know, what is spoken word exactly?
Spoken word is the idea between the idea behind slam poetry and spoken word poetry is that the acknowledgement that poetry is boring. You open a book, you read a book of poetry, is boring as fuck.
Yeah.
But it was not the person who wrote it. They never meant for it to be boring. So it's recognizing that like 70 to 80% of the magic in the poem is when you hear it from the poet.
Okay.
So slam poetry is a poet performing their poetry versus you simply buying a book and trying to interpret all the nuances, all the emphasis and everything.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a lot more it's a lot more performance than writing.
Okay.
How you say it is more important than what you say. And I was always fascinated with lyricists. I was always fascinated with people who put words together super well. And not just rappers. I'm talking about lawyers, I'm talking about politicians. Anybody who knew how to put words together was always fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So it came from there, and what happened was before I connected with JJ to record, I had my job, I was doing my stuff, and I was tutoring kids on the side, tutoring high school kids. So I'd be working with high school kids, and most of the kids I was working with, they didn't really have academic issues. They had more like work ethic issues, behavior issues, whatever.
Did they know what you were doing on the side?
Some of them, near the end, some of them were figuring it out. But what was happening was we would obviously, outside of me tutoring them in their math or whatever I was helping them with, we'd be talking about like, them skipping class, them doing whatever. And I was able to kind of give them guidance that wasn't preachy and whack.
Yeah.
I was really like, I was saying stuff like, hey, instead of skipping school in December when it's cold as fuck outside, why don't you get all this shit done, and then when June comes, as a teacher, I'll tell you, your report card's already printed.
Yeah.
You can fuck around all you want.
That's
like,
dope. That's super dope. Yeah.
And
Sick.
you can enjoy your summer and fuck around. Because what are you doing in December anyways? Like, where is it to go?
It's warm inside. Come inside and learn
just stay
something.
inside, sit there, get your stuff done. Like, handle your stuff and have your fun. And I think they appreciated that more. And then what happened was somebody invited me out to Rexdale, and they're like, yo, we have a bunch of young professionals, young urban professionals from our generation, and we're going to tackle some of the problems that are happening in our community. And at that point, I only thought our problems were just like young high school guys fighting each other.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of learned about, cocaine, how addictive that was getting. I was learning about truck drivers, how they were going down south, having unprotected sex with sex workers, getting diseases, bringing them home, infecting their wives, infecting their children. So I was learning a lot about that.
Yeah.
Started learning more about what was happening out in Vancouver.
Those are still things that I guess happen, but you don't hear about still. They're not very outspoken about.
Completely.
know about
And sorry?
I said I haven't even heard about
Yeah,
that.
you know
Well, yeah,
what
a
I
lot
mean?
of it, because a lot of it, one of the guys was a doctor.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I can't say names, but this is because the client,
Yeah.
history privilege, but he was like, yo, this is a big issue.
Wow.
And he's like, I'm getting people who don't even have the middle of their nose anymore. Like, it's getting all fucked up.
Holy shit.
And the thing with them was they all had this approach that, well, the kids just don't listen.
Yeah.
And just having at that point about 5 years of teaching grade 3s, I'm like, no, it's not that the kids don't listen, it's that you don't know how to speak to the kids.
Yeah.
And even when I would help out at a Godwara camp, Same thing. There's volunteers and their heart's in the right place, but they don't have the tools on how to speak to a child, how to connect with them. And I had a lot of success with that, especially with high school kids.
And you were pretty young at this time too. Like I'm guessing you were still in your 20s at this
Yeah, I was in my
point,
20s, yeah.
So how did they take that coming from you?
Well, no, I didn't say it out loud.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't. Again, that was. I didn't. I had a voice. I had a lot to say for a long time, but I didn't have a voice.
Okay.
It took a long time for me to find that voice.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people listening right now who have a lot to say. They haven't found that voice.
Yeah.
Give it time. It'll come out. And that's when I went home and I wrote that track called Voice for the Voiceless, which was the track I recorded at his house.
Okay.
And that was telling these stories for the first time. And we recorded that, and I was trying to write a spoken word piece with Jay-Z's Minority Report in the back. I wanted it just to be as like how we have background music right now that kind of sets a certain tone. I wanted that. What ended up happening was the poetry naturally kind of snapped into the beat.
Okay.
Because the beat just guides you to start rapping on beat. And that's how I started rapping. There was never a goal to be a rapper.
You were just trying to get something out. And
Yeah, I was trying to make a really dope spoken word piece. And at the same time have some very powerful, like that's a Dr. Dre beat.
Yeah.
Very powerful music in the back.
Damn.
And then it just turned into a track. And then I put that out and I made a lyrics video. And even that on Windows Movie Maker, that took me like 10 days to make. And I put it out. And I still don't know until today. It's just a lyrics video, and it just said, and at that point in the beginning, I think it said, voice for the voiceless gun sing. I think Humble the Poet was still on the fence at that point.
Yeah.
And people stopped me at weddings that I did not know. But there was no visual component to this
So
video.
they'd never seen you.
They had never seen me. And that was the first time. And then somebody's like, yo, because at the end of that video, I had listed a lot of the people who had been murdered during that 10-year span when the Vancouver shit was at its heaviest.
Okay.
I listed everybody. And some people hitting me up like, yo, like you listed my cousin, you listed my brother, you listed these people. Like every time I've ever seen my brother's name in the newspaper, he was depicted as an animal, a killer, a murderer. He goes, and you honored them as like human beings. And these are things that I never thought of at all at that point. But at that point, that kind of gave me a little bit more juice to do it. While this was happening, the Harm and the Hater stuff was happening. And as that was kind of phasing out because everyone had their own priorities, and which was fine, it gave me enough to like start putting my work on that same channel. So then it was like, oh shit, because for Harm and the Hater, my name was K-Man. That's the nickname that all my Rexdale friends call me.
Okay.
So that's my like childhood
That was the
nickname.
first alias. Was K-Man.
It wasn't a rap name, just what my friends still call me K-Man.
Yeah, it's interesting because you knew Harmon and these guys. You met them, and you guys did so many great things. These guys actually come from the same neighborhood as Harmon and them. You guys all went to high school, I believe.
Even
together,
middle school,
right?
yeah.
Middle school, and like there's so many people who came from that area that have just done so well in the arts or in media, and everybody's kind of pushed forward. And it's cool to see that the humble beginnings, that you guys were just having some fun, trying to test some things out, and then people kind of found their own lane.
Yeah, and then you get a little affirmation, a little bit of confirmation,
Yeah.
whether it's a girl, whether it's somebody else. I was with Guratan. Me and Guratan went to we were at a coffee shop, and they had a spoken word contest, and he made me enter.
And that's Guratan Jagmeet Singh's brother.
Jagmeet Singh's brother,
Okay,
yeah.
So you've known him for a decade
I've known them for forever too, but it's the same thing. Just doing entering the contest, and then I made it to the finals, and then I lost then, and then entering a couple of more contests, and then realizing eventually that I wasn't losing because I didn't know how to perform well. Is I was losing because I was saying stuff that was a little bit uncomfortable.
Okay.
So I was talking about because I'd grown up on social issues. Everything I did was about activism and social issues at that point. So I was talking about race, I was talking about police brutality, and sometimes you're at a poetry slam where everyone's just talking about love.
Yeah, and then you just come from left field
Yeah,
with this
so
other
I can
stuff.
see
They're
how
like,
it was a buzzkill in some ways.
Yeah.
But on the technical perspective, I was always like, yo, but I'm saying nicer words, I have better rhyme schemes, I have all this.
frustrating at some points.
Yeah, but once I discovered hip hop and well, not discovered hip hop, but once I did, I jumped into hip hop myself and had a system where I could record, I can hear my stuff, and I can get the rewards off of that.
Yeah.
That it was a rap after that, and I just took that route.
So then now you've decided, okay, I'm gonna rap. So what makes you say I'm quitting my full-time job to do this? Because you had security, you had studied, you'd gone to university or college to become a teacher. Like, why do you decide to give up your bread and butter to pursue arts?
Well, my personal rule was to never give it up unless somebody came to me with a bigger bag. That was the rule.
Yeah.
And I used to perform with a lot of people who were full-time artists, and even the more I hung out with them, the less I wanted that life. Because They seem to be struggling a lot. They seem to be doing a lot of paperwork to get grants. They seem to be taking odd jobs to pay their rent. And all of that just sounded so uncomfortable to me. I didn't want to do it. And then one summer, I went to San Francisco and I hung out with Mandeep Sethi. And he was renting a bedroom in a house in some small city outside of San Francisco. And he would rap to pay his rent. So he would take a $50 gig, a $100 gig, a $20 gig, and he would just do this every day until he had enough for rent.
Wow.
And I think spending that time with him made me kind of fall in love with the grind.
And
the
he's
hustle.
an insane lyricist as well.
Yeah.
Somebody who I think doesn't get enough credit in the hip-hop scene.
100%. And I think the bigger draw for what he was doing that I wanted more, I think I realized, was community. I realized I always kept... Even till today, like the amount of things that I'm doing right now is because the carrot that dangles in front of me is a community of people who fuck with the same things I fuck with.
Yeah.
And I grew up with two sisters, so I never had brothers. So a group of guys I can hang out with, I always wanted that. And I would always dive into that. What happened was I started connecting. Once I met Magic, I met a couple other people with him. And one of those guys thought he had a deal that was bigger than my teaching. And at that point, I just finished that summer with Mandeep Sethi. I couldn't get back into the rhythm of teaching anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the fun. I was having some other personal issues. I was struggling with some other shit. So I was writing my LSAT. I'd written my LSAT once and I didn't do well. And I was getting ready to write it again. And then at that point, when I was, I think like 3 days before I was supposed to go write it again, I was just like, if I'm willing to do that, let me try this. And then so I left everything, hoping to get that deal. And
Did you ever write the LSAT?
I wrote it once.
Uh-huh.
I didn't
But
do
no,
it.
the second time you never
No,
did.
I didn't write it.
Oh,
I
okay,
paid
okay.
for it, I didn't write it.
Yeah.
That was like in December. Which again, I realized that would have been a good fit for me just because I like to debate. I love language. I love the intricacies of it. So I saw why I was getting interested in law. And but even back then, the idea of 3 more years of law school.
I'm so glad you didn't, because what you did after the fact is like something that really grew and something that we've all kind of like. I came up watching YouTube and I didn't know you back then. I'd never met you, and I just saw your music and I saw like Bmagic, like you said, Noyz, all these guys that were with you, and you guys were doing amazing things. And it was what it was, and it's kind of what me and JJ were discussing today. Is now that we know you, we hear your music, it's cool. But the people that have never met you, that are from like Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, all these different rural places that are trying to connect back to their roots.
Yeah.
I think you gave them that connection. It was a way without having to listen to Punjabi music specifically. Oh, this guy's Indian and he's doing something really cool.
But not even that. I was just thinking about this right now. Like before Humble, there's probably a few people that were doing stuff, but I just don't know about them.
I can't think of any.
Yeah. But before that, there was like 22K, those Blitzkrieg, those guys were doing something for Toronto. They had something going on. Were making some sort of noise enough, however it was, that
we knew what they were.
Yeah, we were hearing about it.
Yeah.
But the next wave that I could think of was you and then everyone else who was behind you, including Magic, Noyz, all those guys.
Yeah.
So that's huge to have that next impact.
The timing worked out for us too because we hit the digital age.
Uh-huh.
Where guys like Blitzkrieg and them, I can't even hold it against them because they had. I remember speaking to him before I was getting all this popping. I was like, "How'd you get in England? How do your music videos on TV? You just got to go out there and you got to find the right people." And like, I remember being like, "I don't know who the right people are, as well as I don't know how to get on 93.5 out here in Toronto. I don't know how to do any of this, but YouTube will let me put my music up."
Yeah.
But that was an option that a lot of guys, if they started 3 years before YouTube, it's uncomfortable to adjust and start something new. It's like somebody telling me put my music on Snapchat right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck that.
Yeah.
They were going from school to school, giving out CDs.
Mixtapes, yeah.
Mixtapes. They were. I remember they had their shittiest 22K website, like the ugliest website of all time. No offense, Blitz, but like, it's not like how it was today, where you just go on iTunes and download it. You have to literally look at the CD, click one, wait for the fucking page to load, and download one at a time. It was one of those.
And the only reason we knew because Alley Cat,
Yeah.
he went to high school with us, so he was making beats for them. And then we heard their stuff, I think, because of him.
Yeah.
A lot of
Shout
people
out
went
to
to Rick Hansen, man. That was like
That was the
a lot of
School.
people came out from there.
Yeah, and again, I still think that hustle is still important today. Getting out there, because you can make a copy of a song, you can bootleg a video, but the live experience, that making that relationship and that connection, like that's why I think Russ is so successful.
Yep.
He did
Big
that. He
time.
did that treat it like you're in the 80s.
Yeah,
and pound the pavement and
his
do
story
every single
is
venue.
super dope. That guy, I was reading up on him, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, but he released a track every single day for a full year. And then I think it was like close to the end of the year is when his music started getting picked up. But he didn't give up. I mean, try it for a month, try it for 2, 6, but you're hitting 12 months every day dropping a track. That's nuts.
Insane.
And he did everything himself.
Yeah,
From end
all
to
the
end.
production, everything was
Production,
by himself.
mixing, mastering, everything.
And
He's
I mean,
100%
I
of the
guess
song.
you were networking as you were growing too, because you're meeting guys like Jay Static. You're going to different studios. You're meeting different rappers. So is that how Believe Me Music got together? Like you just started meeting people and you said, "Let me put something together."
I think it was, again, it went back to that need of community, that need, that wanting that. Because I remember I was working for a guy who was a promoter, Punji.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, this is my first year, second year university. And I just wanted to throw a party again, meet girls, throw parties.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure he was happy to have a young guy who knew people,
How old is Punji if you were young and he was older than you back then?
Punji doesn't age, bro. He doesn't
Punji's
age,
like
man.
40, man.
But I remember one thing he said to me once, and it stuck with me because I appreciated it. He goes, "Yo, you're very different," and I'm not saying that as a compliment.
Oh, shit.
And when I thought about it, it helped me realize sometimes why I'd feel isolated in certain situations. It wasn't on some emo shit where I'm like, nobody gets me. When somebody that like is schooling me on the game says it, I was just like, it's true. Sometimes I naturally lean ways that aren't what everybody else is doing, and that was kind of my story coming up. So all of a sudden, I was finding other weirdos like Magic. I was finding other weirdos that were doing the same shit. And all of a sudden, you're like, "Yo, you're like me. Let's all connect. Let's all do things." And you're not thinking again. If somebody told me it would have taken this long for it to work, I probably wouldn't have done it. Because I didn't want to do 3 years of law school. Let alone this is 10 years of this.
Yeah.
And chasing that community, I think, is what really made it happen. So it was kind of like, and back then I was envisioning. It's so crazy because it all came to fruition, but I didn't do it. I was envisioning Toronto having its own identity in hip hop. I was envisioning when people realized how dope Toronto is, that it was going to start dominating and nobody was going to be able to stop it. I was hoping for an all Toronto music festival. I was envisioning for hip hop crews to squash their beefs between hoods. And all of this has happened. I didn't do it. Drake did it. Six Bucks did it. All these guys did it. I didn't do it, but
I think you can't. I mean, Drake gets most of the credit because he got to the biggest scale. But there was guys that came before, like yourself, Cardi.
but not even well.
I mean,
Yeah.
everybody.
There's always things being built behind the scenes.
Right.
There's things
Little-
being built behind the scenes, but there's levels to this shit, and,
Yeah.
and you can see the levels. You can see the levels when things are in their infancy. So level number 1, and you guys can see it with your DJs. You guys can see it with YouTubers. You guys can see it with anything. Level number 1 is competition.
Yeah.
And then people evolve and they go from competition to cooperation. So they're not necessarily friends, but they're like, yo, it's beneficial for us to work together. I don't give a fuck
100%.
about you,
That's so true.
whatever.
Yeah.
But then the next level above that is collaboration. And that's when you're like, yo, me and you are working on something. What we're working on is more important than me and you combined. Right?
Yeah.
So the goal is to get Toronto into a place of collaboration where everybody sees the value of that.
Yeah.
So if you go to LA and YouTube, collaboration, they're in between cooperation and collaboration. People see the value of it, of working together, exposing each other to different audiences, getting new audiences, but there's still a cooperation side because they're like, yo, how much numbers does that guy have?
Yeah.
How much is whatever? Which is fine. We'll get to collaboration whenever we ever get there. With hip hop, there was a lot of competition. So a guy like Drake went through a lot of bullshit with the established people of power at that time. And a lot of those people continue even till today to push a world of exploitation. And I'm not talking about like, yo, I found a young man, I'm taking 10% off the top. I don't look at that as
Are you
exploitation.
talking like Birdman status, like who's just ripping people off and not paying them, or you're talking about more
locking people into contracts, not recognizing, if you're especially artists who popped, not recognizing that if your personal life is fucked, your money's fucked, all this shit's fucked, it's harder to create. and creating conditions like that for other artists.
I just saw Akon say something similar. What I didn't know was Akon actually is the one who got Lady Gaga, or made Lady Gaga, basically, right? I didn't know this.
I didn't know
She was signed to a bunch of labels, and then she was on Interscope, and then he ended up picking her up, doing a deal with Jimmy Iovine, and then he basically blew her up. But then he didn't hold on to her. He just let her go. And Nori, I was watching on Drink Champs, and Nori was like, why didn't you, like, that's the bag. You should have held on to that. He's like, no, I built her to grow, to fly. Like, I gave her wings, she flew, and that's it. I made my money. I made a good deal. It was a good business deal. But you're right. A lot of people, once they develop something, say I made DJ M a great DJ, you start to get afraid to let him go because, he's going to get bigger than what I made him or whatever. I want to eat off him forever.
But here's the thing. You're right, and what that is just fear, because it's not even correct. It's not even accurate.
Yeah.
If you made him and you give him 110%,
Make another.
and A, you can make another. B, you guys can still structure a responsible deal that allows you to have a piece of the pie that you deserve because you brought him somewhere he didn't. C, even if you let him go completely and he goes late, you think Akon's ever gonna be homeless for the rest of his life, knowing that what he did for Lady Gaga?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You think if he ever really needed a Lady Gaga feature tomorrow, it wouldn't be it'd be a challenge for him?
Yeah.
These are people that they'll recognize that, and there's value to that. I think I'm only here today because I made and maintained friendships and relationships with people who weren't gonna do anything for me.
So
They
your
couldn't.
mentality at that time was never like, I got Noyz, Bmagic, Fateh, whoever, I'm going to sign these guys and make a record label.
No, The mentality was, I got people who get it.
Yeah.
I want to be around these people most. What can I do to make sure they keep coming around? What can I do to make sure? And even now, like, I'm still working on it. What can I do to what can I do to make sure these weirdos are doing nothing less than being weird all the time?
Well, Magic was telling me a story about how you put something together downtown where that was one of the first times that everybody that is kind of popping right now was in the same room and kind of got
Combo.
together.
Oh, yeah,
Magic,
that's
you got your mic there.
Combo.
You want to kind of explain what you experienced that day?
Check.
Check.
Yeah.
Be Magic in the house.
Hold on, can we crank the level a little bit?
No, yeah. So it was like I had never ever performed on a stage before, and like I'd reached out to Humble and me had only talked online. I'd sent him songs, and he's like, "Okay, you don't suck, but there's room for improvement." And I thought I was like the dopest shit back then.
As
so
you should.
It was kind of nice.
You should.
The Norwegian Prince.
Right,
eh?
but like it was good to hear like constructive criticism because at that point nobody had told me nothing other than I was just recording stuff and sending it to friends. So we kind of built this friendship online, and then he's like, "Yo, I'm doing this event downtown at the El Macombo."
Shit, we didn't met until that show.
Oh wow,
I
that
just
was the first time you
realized
guys
that.
actually met.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he's like, "Yo, I'm gonna do the show. Like, I'll give you like your little time slot if you wanna perform. Like, you can." So I'm like, "Okay." I said yes. I'd never ever performed, never even touched a microphone, done it in front of anybody. I just recorded at home or in like a Brampton basement somewhere. So then I went there with all the homies. Like, I was still in high school at this point. We went there, and I remember we were trying to like sneak in somebody that was like underage through like a back door. And I was trying to find a back door to this place, and I walked to this back room, and all of a sudden like Humble's there. And I'm like, "Oh shit. Like, what's up?" Like, and then I explained I'm trying to get people in. He's like, "All right, cool, just whatever.
Yeah.
Don't get
We got
caught."
him in. Yeah, we got. No one's gonna stop him.
And so pretty much he put me on a show without ever meeting me. He was just like, "Okay, you're good enough. You're not gonna embarrass me by being out there." And then on that same bill was Fateh. There was Bygbyrd, Malton. I think
Jay Static's on the flyer, but he didn't show up.
I think like
Signalers.
Noyz was in the crowd. He wasn't even a rapper at that
He
point.
just came to support.
Yeah, so like I had met all these people there as well as Humble for the first time, performed for the first time.
Fateh had
And
stuff
I
out.
met
Fateh had stuff out.
like we also met Noyz for the first time. Well, I did, and that's like how
Well,
I got him
redid,
into
yeah.
recording.
Yeah. And it's crazy to say because I mean you mentioned these guys and maybe a lot of people that are listening to the show just started hearing about the Bygbyrds and Maltons after they blew up with the Punjabi stuff, but that's also a decade ago. You've been making music for a decade.
They
now,
stuck, and that's the thing, man. Like they deserve it because they stuck with it.
They could have gave up a long time ago. Like
lot of
I know
people
a lot
did.
of them. Like even Sonny Malton was working at Canadian Tire for a while.
Sonny
he
Malton gave up a few times.
He
from what I
almost
could tell.
quit,
Like he
like,
was
it
just like,
looked
"Fuck
like.
this shit."
Yeah.
Then comes back into it. You can't leave it.
And you know they came back stronger, better,
Yep.
and they've made it. You know, and you could see the joy they feel now when they
This
see
thing
that
takes a
they've
toll
made
on
it,
you.
know?
It takes a huge toll on you.
I see him. He's frustrated sometimes too, and he's just like, "Fuck this shit. I don't want to do it." But then I think when you really love something and you have a passion for it, you're automatically attracted back.
It always
to
comes back.
Yeah, you find out what you're not, and it's about the journey about figuring out what you're actually obsessed with. Like this man is actually obsessed with sound. Like I'll never forget how upset he got when I said something like, "Oh, let's turn it up 3 decibels," and this guy just lost his shit, started lecturing me on you don't just turn up things by decibels. And like I gave a shit. I wanted it louder, but he was visibly like he's very passionate about that. And for I think anybody. And I think about like just like a month ago, I went up north, like go up north on Har, Ontario for an hour, and you can go like Forks to the Credit and see stars. It's cold ass night, and there's a bunch of guys out there with telescopes, you know, and they're not getting paid to do it. No. They're just so fucking excited to look at the stars, look at the planets. They're excited to show you. They're excited to share it with you, and you're just like, yo, any human who has found out their thing, and I don't think we get to choose it. I personally don't think we get to choose it.
Yeah.
It is whatever you're wired. That's what it is. Any human who is able to find that, your quality of life is it's gonna be more adventurous. I'm not gonna say it's better. It's gonna be more adventurous, and I became addicted to that. Finding people who were obsessed with anything, because you know if I went with somebody who was obsessed with ballet to the ballet. They'll bring it to life for you.
Yeah.
They'll show you the beauty of it.
That's true.
And I think for me, that's what it really was. Because it's like, yeah, a lot of people were hitting me up. Magic hit me up. I was every single message I was checking them because I wanted to build that community. I wasn't thinking about anything.
What are you guys
else.
communicating on? This is MSN days?
Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay, so this is a little further.
Hit him
down
on
the line.
Facebook. Hit me up. Connected. That's how Lily hit me up on Facebook.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I was actually going to bring that up later in the show, but now that you mentioned it, I mean, at this point, you know, everybody sees you. You're in LA with Superwoman, Lily, and people may think that, oh, you know, Humble is kind of like, you know, riding Lily's coattails, or he may be, you know, working with her out there for a purpose or whatever. But I actually read that up that she was the one who originally reached out to you, and you helped build or help her kind of start her career.
Yeah. Well, start.
Guide.
Well, you explain it. I mean, you know better.
It's hard because she's a monster with it, and when she took it to ridiculous levels. And when we first started meeting, like I wasn't making it super easy. I think what it was, yeah, she reached out specifically to make a song, specifically about. She wanted a rap song to squash beef between Bhangra teams in Toronto.
I remember that song.
Really?
I remember that
So
song.
she hit me up and she wanted me to be a part of this. I wasn't too heavy into that world, and I think I knew there was like 2 or 3, and I didn't give a shit. I'm not being honest, I didn't give a shit. But and I'll be real, in her Facebook picture, she had cornrows. Lily saying I don't know what she was, I don't know what her background was, and I was just like, yo, we ain't saying no to no girls that reach out. So I didn't help her with it though, and she did it. And then she started her YouTube that way, and I think she did like a how to tie a bug for Bhangra. Everything with her she was doing originally was about Bhangra teams.
Yeah, it was.
Because she ran one of the teams, and then NTP, yeah, and then eventually she started doing comedy, and then she reached out. So that was in the beginning of 2011. She reached out, and then we didn't connect properly until end of 2011. We started doing Christmas videos. She asked me to be a part of a Christmas video. And
this is when she's doing her own videos, like her regular stuff. And
yeah,
she would
so
do
she
a
has
Christmas
so now
edition.
so she was trying to do something where she was gonna collaborate with a bunch of people on Christmas, like 12 days of Christmas. She was doing 12 collaborations of Christmas. She reached out to me to be a part of that. I said yes, but I wasn't extremely accommodating. We're at one of the studios around here, and we're like, yeah, I'm finishing up a song, but we were just fucking around doing whatever.
You weren't being very humble at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I wasn't being humble. I wasn't being accommodating. I wasn't being respectful to her. I was being none of these things. But to my defense, at that point, I was getting messages every day from people who I knew weren't gonna stick with it.
Yeah.
They're gonna fuck around, right? And so every once in a while, like when I press play on a Bmagic, I'm like, oh, this is dope. She didn't have anything at that point. And when that Bhangra song came out, again, it's about things I don't care about. I wasn't in that world. She wasn't the greatest rapper back then. She's gotten way better.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I don't write her shit at all.
Oh man, I had that
do
question
not
too.
write her. I do not write her shit.
Never have.
Never have I written her shit. And he knows this because once we were in Vancouver and I agreed to do a song with her when I was in LA and I flew to Vancouver. By the time I landed and connected with him, her verse was done.
Yeah,
Nice.
and you
And
showed
we were-
me on the couch
And we were no,
at Andy's place.
I showed you on the couch, and then I think I mentioned it to you because we went to go party.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel bad. She's done her part of the song, and we were going to like Granville.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? And we went to party, and I was like, she's already done. And she wrote everything on a plane, but she came, and then so pretty much she waited until 2 a.m. to meet up with me and shoot with me.
After you guys partied.
No, this is so when she was with me for this Christmas stuff.
Oh, okay.
I was at a studio here,
Okay.
and we weren't in an intense work situation. We were just fucking around.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, yeah, I just didn't want to end the night, kill the vibes. I didn't know this girl. I didn't want to whatever. So she waited, and then she came from Scarborough at 2 a.m. to shoot with me.
Wow.
She shot, didn't have a negative thing to say, didn't complain about the big weed smoke that was in the room, didn't say shit.
Yeah.
By the time I woke up in the morning that day, her video was out.
That's crazy.
And
work ethic.
Work ethic was here. So at that point, and I had done stuff for other people. I had done verses for other people. I had showed them other people's videos, and they just disappeared. And I was shocked at how quickly that came out, and that humbled me. Because I realized, like, you had that moment. I was like, why were you such a dick?
Yeah.
What was the point?
Yeah.
And again,
But you know why?
Huh?
Because of all the X, Y,
all the
reasons.
other
Yeah,
X, Y, and
100%.
Z's. And again, it was never 100%. If you guys ever chat with her, she'll admit, like, first year, 2 years,
Yeah.
she didn't like me as a person either.
But
And-
she's very persistent. Like KSR has told me that, you know, she's reached out herself to when you were doing some knack stuff. She came and
Yeah.
supported. She would always come watch the show. And like the work ethic, I think for her has just always
That's-
been there.
that's what I
probably
respect
take
about
the
it.
same way because
Yeah.
I'm like that to people too. Like
Yeah.
not on purpose, but it just happens. You
Well,
know?
you're just a
It just
natural
happens, but it
asshole.
doesn't happen with her. But it doesn't happen with her. And I think after that, things got a little bit more serious. And then I didn't work with her again until me and this guy did Morny.
Okay.
And then at that point,
Fuck, I
That
forgot
video
all
was
this.
sick.
Yeah, that is the first time I've
Wow.
ever heard anybody reference a girl to a tumbi. That was dope.
you look
yo.
like a Tumbi.
Yeah. That was a dope. line.
I'm part of the school of the Fresh Prince in flirting, bro. You just try to get all the clever lines. But yeah, when we did that track, and then we were trying to come up with a video, and then at that point,
Was that before Boggy Music or
that was after.
That was after.
Everything's after Boggy. Yeah.
Okay.
Boggy was 2010.
Boggy was the first thing that kind of came out that was
Boggy was the first thing that like got me out of Toronto, like
Okay.
in terms of gigs and stuff like that.
It was super dope track as well. Do we have that track? Can we hear that?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I was going to talk about that track. You got that tattoo on your neck in the
Yeah.
video of that track, right?
Wow, we shot
Yeah.
the video. So
Random
stupid.
fact.
Let's
That
play.
is just-
Let's
it's
play the
weird.
track and then we'll
I
come
remember
back.
seeing that in the video because it's like.
Yeah. Everybody thought it was fake.
was a super dope song. We've heard it. I used to play it on repeat all the time. JJ was heavily involved in that
heard
track.
it a million times while I was trying to mix it.
Who was in that video for people that haven't seen it? You were mentioning he gets tattooed in the video.
Yeah, so I seen Just Rain, AK. There's a whole bunch of people in that video.
Everybody's in that video.
Everybody's in that video.
While everyone was still cool, they were in that video.
What is boggy
No,
music?
everybody was cooperating. They weren't cool. That was definitely not, because that was we did that Boggy Music Festival. We shot parts of the video there. And we had to pay people to show up for that.
What is boggy? Like, what does boggy mean?
So, Gunji Boggy is he's a homie from California. He was rapping in all Punjabi back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, when JJ opened his studio, me and Sick went and we recorded a track called Mohammad Sayeed, which was over a J Electronica beat. I just named it after my boy Mohammad Sayeed because I realized, hey, I have the power to name shit after my homies. He showed me the beat, I name it.
Yeah.
So Boggy, when I was in New York, I stayed at him and Houdini were shout out to Houdini, another dope lyricist out of the West Coast. They were staying in NYU in the dorms. They're on some like 1 month exchange program, so we were staying with them in their dormitory, and Boggy's just a super resourceful guy. He sweet talked to the janitor, opened an empty dorm room so we had an extra place to stay.
Wow.
In the middle of the literally in the middle, we were just writing rhymes, talking shit. In the middle of the night, he came with a fresh box of Dunkin' Donuts out of nowhere. Like, he went downstairs and got them. I was like, Boggy, man, you deserve a song. And I was like, yo, what does Boggy mean? I asked him. He goes, yo, Boggy means rebel, right? And then I was like, yo, I'm gonna double check with my mom. My mom's like, you know, the kids that don't listen to their parents, they're called boggies. And the people that, you know, disobey orders in the army, they're boggies. And I was like, yo, that's bomb. Like, it's rebel shit, rebel music, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's what inspired it. And then after that, I wrote it in a room with Sick Knowledge, Boggy, and Houdini. And then they helped me become less of a chip on my shoulder lyricist, because that's all I was. I was just, I can fucking rhyme fast, I can fucking rhyme a lot of words. And Houdini was like, yo, chill down. Like, instead of being like, yeah, like, I tried to reply very politely, but really at the end, we all family. He's like, slow it down. I tried to reply very politely.
The swag.
Add the swag, add the sauce, you know, add some personality to it. Just because I can rap fast and understand cannabis and like Bone Thugs lyrics doesn't mean the average listener can. So they really kind of showed me the world of accessibility in music, and before that I had never even tried to make music
and
to try to connect with people on that level.
That was a Sick Knowledge beat, actually, you mentioned
Sick
as well,
Knowledge,
right?
yeah.
Sick Knowledge is an interesting character to me because we were watching a video. It was actually you, him, Spec One, Noyz, Bmagic, Selena, JJ was DJing. You guys were on some stage and you guys had a kid that was a dolly, Sean Dolly, and he was playing on the dole and you were just doing like a beat and you guys were all freestyling. And you guys had this little chant going about like something about fake patois, and everybody was saying fake patois. And then I hear Sick Knowledge get on the mic, and he's like the first fucking faggot with fake patois. And Sick Knowledge is openly gay, and he was basically so comfortable at that time, even back then, to just, you know, say that about himself and express himself. How much was that an influence on you and kind of opening up? And like you said, you didn't have the juice. Was that a part of that?
1000%, because you start feeding off people's energy.
Yeah.
And even with Sick, like connecting off with him randomly on Facebook. Like when Facebook came out, the first thing I did was Facebooked my name to see who else in the world had my name, Gunwork, because it wasn't a very common name. And I found him. And then he played he played music and found out our birthdays were a day apart, same year.
That's crazy.
And literally hit him up being like, oh shit, you make music. And then him replying like, yo, I fucking love Harmon the Hater. And I'd be like, yo, and he was in Montreal and never knowing anybody outside of Brampton who knew about the show at that point. And then just connecting, but as well as like a lot of us who grew up, you know, keeping our hair can share the story of just, you know, not fitting in, dealing with overt racism, dealing with all this shit. He had that story, plus within his own community being gay, what that did, because people in our community are just not cool with that.
Yeah.
So Uppernet hate him for being gay, everybody else hated him for being dissy. You know, he had to create a stronger backbone because of that, and you feed off that. And even till today, I took him. Lily threw a birthday party for her dad, and she hired a Koali band.
Nice.
And so just a lit ass party in the basement. And this guy, he just turned the fuck up. But even then, uncles and aunties and everything there, there's just a magic to him because he doesn't hold back. He doesn't have a filter, and everyone still loves him. And he just kept saying, "Oh my God, I need to fucking die. What's the point of living after this? This was the greatest experience in my life. Why even go to work tomorrow?" Fuck. And he's just saying it fun, and aunties are agreeing with him and stuff. It was just bananas. And so I always like that, to see that sometimes we're afraid to kind of have our voice. And the only reason he has such a strong voice is because he had to develop it. And he's a good example of, yo, shit doesn't go wrong when you speak your mind. Like we that shit's in our head.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feed off his energy. And he's smart as fuck, and he's talented as fuck.
That's dope. Super dope. I want to move on to you and video directing. Real quick, we'll get through this. I know JJ.
I already know where this goes.
So you'd always made videos and directed them and kind of done that, but then you decided to go big with it with the track Superwoman.
Yeah, shout out to Alley Cat. He made that.
Oh, he made that beat. Okay, and you've never shied away from really hiding the fact that you use your network well. Like if somebody helps you with something, it's not that you're gonna front in the video and show that that's my whip or that we paid for it or whatever. Bygbyrd helped you out with that, with the car, you show Luxotic. Rick Mataro helped you out with the house, you show him in the video. You've always been big on, kind of showing your network. What made you want to go into directing a video and just hitting that lane up?
Well, I think it started even earlier than that. So it was like, me and Babu once went by Heartland, and we drove around, and I brought 3 sweaters, and we shot 3 videos in one day. I just changed my sweaters, and then he edited them all, and he edited them very well. And I think realizing that we have to shoot our own music videos moving forward, that was going to be what it is. But eventually, what I noticed very quickly was a lot of people love to shoot, nobody likes to edit. And people will shoot your video, and then 6 months will go by before they edit it. So I think probably Boggy was the last time I kind of put that in the hands of somebody else. Then God bless AK, he loves to edit. So then I started shooting videos with him.
We've never even mentioned him actually so far. He was our first guest on this show actually. Yeah, AK and Arky, they came through. So shout out to them.
Shout out to Arky, man.
And you were a big part of his come up too on YouTube as well.
Same thing, man. I found it was just community. He was saying some real
and
shit.
He's from Rexdale as well.
Yeah, he's from Rexdale, and he was saying some real shit. And he went to the same high school that I went to. We're years apart, but he was from the same area. But yeah, it's the same thing. So with him, he had a flavor to him that reminded me of the people I grew up with, but people did not appreciate that. So I think when he started getting a little bit of backlash for things he was saying, I just kind of sent him a message of support, being like, "Yo, I dig it," and I still do that. There's actually an artist on Instagram right now who's making some shit, and it's controversial, and I just sent him a message, and you don't even realize it. He's just like, "Thanks, man. I was gonna stop because I get so much backlash for saying some of the things." Because he says some unpopular ideas, but really a lot of unpopular ideas are people digging in deeper and saying uncomfortable things. They're not really saying things that are incorrect. And I think AK was doing the same thing at that time, and we connected from that. So after I started working with people and not depending on them to edit, I started learning how to edit myself. And then that gave me a lot more control to get things out quicker and do stuff.
And you've always had a kind of like you've never done things just off a whim from what I can tell. Everything seems very calculated, very planned, very like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to release it this way, or I'm going to have this person
I wish.
No?
I don't think so either.
No.
I got that from the
Me and JJ did morning because JJ would not play Boggy at parties. I was like, why did we make the song if I have all the hottest DJs who are my friends and none of them are playing it? They won't play it. And he's like, yo, that song doesn't work. So I was like, why did we make it then?
Yeah.
You can't. To play a hip-hop song at a Punjabi wedding, in just general, it has to be literally tier 1 on fucking radio 24/7 in order
for everyone to know it. Everybody
100%.
has to know it. And I get that.
Yeah.
This
So
is
at that
before,
point,
like, the Punjabi hip hop stuff was like really taking off.
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah.
right?
Desi hip hop?
Even
Yeah,
to the
hip
point
hop.
where if a Punjabi rapper was in a Punjabi song, you would cut the song before it gets to the Punjabi rapper.
No, you're
That's
right.
what we were doing.
You're right. And at that point, though, you're just hot-headed things. And then my beef was, as a lyricist, I looked at pop music as easy.
Yeah.
I looked at the stuff that they play at parties as easy. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I just didn't want to do it. And then Boggy was the first time I wrote chants. Yeah, so what happened was with that, I was like, okay, cool. He goes, that beat doesn't work. It's just not part of it. I'm like, what would work? And he's like, Morning. So then
And
that's
no, but our beginning thing with Morning was we were gonna ask PMC himself.
but that
So
but you
that was
originally had
cool.
the idea.
Yeah.
And we did. we did.
Yeah.
We played it for him. Like all that shit happened.
It was more. That was more of like a cool.
Yeah, it was more like
So,
cool.
I think what
But it wasn't planned.
Yeah.
It was very, and then at that point, it's just like, oh, okay, I want to shoot a video about this. Okay, I got these guys saying that they're down to shoot it, and then
I got a banquet hall.
huh?
Birdie.
I got a banquet
I
hall.
got a banquet hall, and then by then I was editing,
Uh-huh.
and then that was the second time I did anything with Lily. But third time I'd done something else where she hosted something for us. But even then, man, my parts took like 9 hours to shoot. And she just sat around and
Just
waited.
over and over again, just shooting.
Yeah, because I
stuff
was doing stuff with my with Chichi,
Uh-huh.
Jatinder Latigra.
Oh yeah.
And he just kept making me laugh. He kept fucking up all the scenes. And she didn't say nothing. She just sat there quietly. And then we wrapped at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Was Rupin Ball in that video as well?
No,
No? There was a drunk uncle that's outside trying to holler at the girl.
that's a different video.
Yeah, that's not
different
this video.
Oh.
This is at Verdi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it a... Oh, whatever. I mean,
And your follow-up track, well, you did Let, you shot that, and your follow-up
That was
track
2014, yeah.
That was 2014. 2015, you dropped the IVIVI, right?
Yeah.
And that was to promote the city. Can you explain what that track was about?
So what that was after we did that and it came out and it did really well. I wasn't gonna like kind of impose myself on Lily and be like, let's do more music. So I was just like, yo, whenever you want to do music, we can do it. And she's like, yo, I want to do music, but I want to do something for the city. Because again, she's from Scarborough, real strong 416 connection, want to do it. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do one for the city whenever you're ready. And she never brought it up again, so I never brought it up again. And then in March, she's like, yo, remember I brought up that thing about doing for the city? I think it'd be really cool if we did it and if we dropped it on April 16th, 416.
I saw that, yeah.
And it was like March 30th. And I was like, okay. So we literally, and
April
again,
16th.
huh?
April 16th.
April 16th, she wanted it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And no, you know what? It might have even been like April 4th. It was really like, yeah, it was April 4th when she brought it up. And she's like, I know it's, because I think, you know what I was doing? I think I was sending her beats for it. And I think I was getting the vibe from her, like, yo, I just kind of said that in passing. Like, you're taking it too serious, right? So I backed off. I really did.
Yeah.
And I'd played her the beat that Signalage made for that. He made that beat for IVIVI. But then she's like, yo, I really want to do something for the city. If you're still down, if we can pull it off in a week, let's do it. And I was like, sure. And I know you're going on your world tour. Let's make it about your world tour to promote it. So again, we wrote, recorded, shot the video, got the permission to be in ACC. I edited that one too. I edited that in 36 hours straight, no sleep.
Wow.
And that whole thing came to life in a week. But she's a monster like that. She does. That's how she does stuff.
And you guys shot that in the ACC, in the TTC. You guys shot everything was
Yeah.
Toronto
that
related.
played
It
on
was super dope.
93.5, right?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh,
That's
you guys-
how we learned the
I
radio
remember
hustle.
tuning in to
Yeah.
listen to it
Oh.
because like, oh, it's dropping.
It dropped on
at this
93.5, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you
That's
mean
crazy.
by
I
learning the
remember
radio
tuning
hustle?
in to listen to that.
We
Let's
had
see what it
songs
is.
before, like so for example, La, we were trying to get that on 93.5, and then
Wouldn't
that's where
go.
we talked to a whole bunch of people, because we kept thinking that you talk to the DJ, and then you learn like how corporate it is. DJ's like, I don't choose the music, I don't have any authority over what song gets played, so I kind of at that point I'm just like, I don't care, I don't see the benefit of being on radio at that point anyways. And in IVIVI, I think because we had a little bit more heads up and a little bit more local, I think one of the DJs, I think it was Peter Cash, he had one of those pump it or dump it, and that's how we got it on.
And did they
Nice.
pump it or dump it?
I think they pumped it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they
I'm
pumped
guessing
it.
if it's on, they pumped it.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure.
No, they'll play it
I'm
and they'll
pretty sure-
ask people pump it or dump it.
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
I heard it a few times on the radio.
So it was definitely pumped.
I definitely do remember hearing it.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I used to listen to the radio every day.
I think by then I was working with her. Like the thing with her is she's on like get it done, move on.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really. There's very little sit back, listen to it on the radio,
Yeah.
enjoy it like that. Those days had long gone by.
I think there's a lesson to be learned in that for anybody who thinks that, a lot of people come under this understanding that if you make music, you have to wait 2, 3 months, 6 months, a year for your track to drop because there's a process. I don't think that's true at all, and you've
Not
proven
anymore.
that.
No,
Well,
definitely not anymore.
even 5-6 years ago, you're talking about you're doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
completely. I think with
it's
the
really
digital
just
age,
on
yeah.
effort yourself that you're willing to put in, and if you're willing to take on, you were skilled enough to edit videos and do all that, so you put it together. But
And with and I think it also has to do with like the medium. The medium's digital now. So for example, like I write books. I have a call on Wednesday to start talking about the promo for the book that releases in April.
Oh wow!
But again, I get it. They got to print physical books on
Yeah.
pages. Like
Yeah.
it takes time. So everything moves a lot slower. And that's what the major publisher is. So it's like, I get how the majors move slower. When you're independent, you can move quicker. There aren't as many decision makers. You know, if you work for a big company, I ask you a question, you got to ask 5 people an answer.
Yeah.
If I work for myself, it's just me making a decision. But yeah, if you're a content creator in the digital space, whether you're making music, whether you're podcasting, whether you're anything, yeah, you can drop them real quick. It depends on what your priorities are in terms of how you want the art to look.
Absolutely.
But now, like, say you've directed 2 videos, and now
Who,
you're
me? I've directed more than 2
No,
videos,
I'm saying,
bro.
I'm saying based on what we're talking about. Right now we've talked about 2 videos you've directed.
Yes.
And then you moved forward. You've probably done way more stuff after that, including all YouTube. But now I'm going to push over to I Will.
Yeah.
You directed that yourself.
Yeah.
You
Road
obviously
direct, yeah.
recorded it yourself.
Edited.
Everything.
Yeah.
How was that? Because directing someone else's video of a song that maybe you have part in, but it's not your song, to directing your
And also
own
having
full
having
song.
someone like Lily to lean on.
Yeah.
That was, you know, obviously she's a workhorse. So I'm constantly playing catch up in that situation. And then when you're by yourself and you hired the staff and you did all that, you know, if you slack, you give them permission to slack.
Well,
If
you mentioned in I Will, you actually went around Toronto and just randomly found some of those people and asked them if they wanted to be in the video, right?
We chased. I saw a couple. Because I was looking for people with face tattoos, and not as common as you thought in
As they
Toronto.
are now.
Yeah. So then, like, if I saw a girl with any tattoo, I'd run up to her, chase her, try to get her contact information.
Uh-huh.
That's not creepy at all.
And
Well, yeah, it was super creepy, but
and it's difficult to do what you're doing. Like, that sounds easy to run around the streets and just find people, get their contact.
Not
but
at
then
all.
now you have the contact. Now you got to organize to get them there on
But
the
we
same
were,
day.
yeah. I mean, when I did the mixtape that Boggy was on, I ran around the streets interviewing people for the remember the 416 track, just trying to ask people about the city.
Yeah.
It was. It's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's uncomfortable to approach strangers and talk to them, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, right?
And you're out there. I remember I was driving on right off of Yonge Street or something. And I see Humble on a bike just riding downtown. I was like, "What the hell's
I
Humble
dreamed
doing
that,
here?"
but that's what I dreamed. I
Yeah.
dreamed having a life where I can fuck around during office hours and ride a
That's what he
bike
said to me. I was like,
downtown.
"What are you doing?" He says, "I'm just fucking around, man. I'm just riding my bike, having a good time. We're about to go do something." And that's
Yeah.
dope to see that. You barely ever see anybody doing that. Yeah?
That's crazy.
Well, from our community especially.
But
Other than Jigmeet Singh.
But how was it
So
actually directing the video?
actually directing that video. So I had a chance before that I did a video here, and that was the first time that I'd finally found a team that could help bring these ideas to life. And what I realized when I worked with hair is I worked with a group called Parliament Pictures, and Dakota, who's the DP and kind of like my co-director, he gives a shit, and that's always the challenge. When you get your friends to help you, you can't expect them to give a shit as much as you give a shit.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons my relationship with Lily grew so strong, is because we realized we were the only 2 people who really, really gave a shit about even when we were working on other people's shit. And what happened with connecting with Dakota is when I had an idea, I had a funky ass idea, I'd be like, I want to do X, Y, Z. He would never contradict my idea, but he'd find so much space in it to add more genius to it. So I'd just be like, oh, I want a scene where this girl's got me tied up and she's doing and she's just looking gangster with it. And then he's just like, well, we should have her looking in the mirror. We need the walls to be red because it needs to be a red room.
Yeah.
So that's murder backward. And he just say all these things, and I'm just like, I didn't even think of any of that. So
Oh, I just put that together right now with the red
Yeah.
room and the holy shit.
and I think anytime before that, any creatives I work with, we'd always butt heads. But I think what I realized here was it was a division of labor where he saw the spaces that he could fill in without contradicting my vision, and he'd always make it look better than it was in my head. And I
That's
didn't realize
hard
that
as
it's
hell.
super hard. It's super hard
That's
to
so
find
hard.
people like that. It's you got to kiss frogs till you find your prince, right? And
Yeah.
it's that with music, it's that with what have you. It's people get it, some people don't. And well, we got it for recording, I feel, right? And having that vision, I like, okay, now I can shoot the video of my dreams, because I didn't know they were that good. And he had an art director. He lived in a house full of film students, and they all served a purpose, and they all got along really well. We had a producer as well, somebody who can cast, somebody who can extend outside my network, so we can have non-brown people in the video. And after Hair Did So Well, we went to do I Will. I literally sat in a coffee shop listened to the song a million times, went on Pinterest, Instagram, just found visuals that I loved. I'm a big fan of like the Missy Elliott videos, the Busta Rhymes videos.
Hell yeah.
And I used to record those on VHS and excited to see them because they're so larger than life. And I wanted to create that with this. So all it was is I got the ideas rough and then slowly organized them, because one of the themes for all my videos, including the ones that will be moving forward, is just like multiple scenes, multiple well-crafted scenes. They may not be long, they may only be like 5-10 seconds, but it'll be legit scenes. So I'm like, all right, this video is gonna have 13 scenes based off my timing, and this one's gonna be this one's gonna be this one's gonna be this. And I just put them all in folders, sent them over to these guys, and then they're the ones who were able to help bring it to life. Like, oh, okay, you need this. Oh, I know this local designer in Toronto. He has, and I go, I want flower people. This was based off the movie The Warriors. Eminem made a video copying The Warriors. Tupac's, that's not The Warriors, but it's a very similar idea. California Love, gangs, aesthetic gangs. That was more. The other movie with the Australian guy, Mad Max. They had that vibe. So just this Mad Max Warriors, all these gangs looking the same aesthetically. I wanted that. And I'm like, I want a flower gang with flowers growing out of their hair
buttons
and stuff.
on the kids' faces.
Buttons on the kids' faces. So those are garbage kids. I wanted kids to be wearing garbage, to be like, yo, we're giving them disposable. Everything we give them is going to be disposable. And they really... I would just say I want garbage kids, and then they would be like, oh, well, this is what we're gonna do with your garbage kids. We're gonna have one kid wrapped in VHS tape. We're gonna do whatever. And then I'm like, yo, originally it was like, yo, I wanna get a bunch of cabbies doing donuts in the parking lot. And I mean, we couldn't get the logistics of how I wanted to shoot it, because I wanted some crazy shit. And normally I just find references from other videos, and that video took about 6 months to shoot and about a month to edit.
Wow.
And I had additional scenes. I had reached out to other people in public figures as well. A lot of them said no. They thought my ideas were a little too wild and controversial. So certain scenes were designed around people that said no. Because in Hair, I had Lily do a girl on girl scene.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it was that was because I was like, yo, if I'm gonna have you in a music video, and the consensus is, oh, Lily always helps this guy do shit in his videos.
Yeah.
I was like, the very least I can do is present you in a way that you've never been seen before.
How did she take that?
Huh?
How did she take that? The idea of when you brought it up to
Oh,
her.
I want you to do a girl on girl?
Yeah.
She said, as long as I don't know her, I'm down. She said, if it's
a pretty good answer.
Well, and it was actually inspired by her. I went to one of her friends is a dancer. We went to one of her performances, and in the performance, she did it. That the dancer did a girl on girl scene, and as a joke, Lily's like, "Who is this hoe dancing with my girl?" And I was just like, "Yo, that's true. Why don't you and her do a girl on girl? That would look super dope." You know what I mean? And we can make it less erotic, more sensual, or even more lovey. And then she's like, I'm down, but I'm not going to do it with a girl I know. She goes, we'll just start laughing. It'll be stupid. It'll be silly. It won't whatever. Because girls are lined up. Like on the other side, it was no issue finding a girl who wanted to do a girl on girl scene with her.
Oh, wow.
And even mutual, everyone's just like, I'm down.
Yeah.
And then that was actually our art director who helped design that whole video. So I wanted to do more scenes like that with other, and I always wanted to show, I didn't want to put women on a pedestal type shit. I wanted to show women as real raw human beings that can be strong and weak and smart and whack. So I had some ideas that couldn't fly, and that slowed down some of it because I expected some people to say yes, and I thought hair was gonna make people believe in my vision, but I think it still scared people. So a couple scenes we had to do last minute, and I think now I've kind of owned the idea that your real job as a filmmaker is to put out fires and deal with problems. There isn't the smooth.
You mentioned Party Bossy in one of the videos and how she almost didn't do that scene that you liked.
I don't know which
so much.
Bossy it is, but the
Party,
one that was crying at the end.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example.
That is Party Bossy. Right?
Party Bossy. Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying to have the conversation with her to forget her to be in the video, forget even telling her the creative. She's saying no, and I get that, and I get that a lot. Even when I asked Lily to be in Morning.
Yeah.
A lot of these girls are like, no, I'm not trying to be a video hoe.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, like, I don't do video hoes.
Yeah.
I don't do that. And you gotta watch my previous videos. I don't do the item girl. I don't do any of that type of stuff. You're not gonna be an object. You're gonna be a character. And the thing with Party specifically was I had only met her a couple of months before, like properly, like we had done lunch and hung out. And I didn't realize that she was like an actress seriously taking taking it like seriously. And all I kept telling her was like, yo, fuck all these auditions that you're doing. You need to write your own shit. None of these auditions will ever let you show your magic. Write your own shit. So when I had this video, I was like, yo, I'm going to show Party Bossy the actress.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. You are not going to be exploited in the way you think. Like my character exploits you in the video, but on a different level. And you're not gonna be remembered as a girl who did a pretty girl in the video. You're gonna be remembered as a girl who did a performance.
100%. She puts the wig on, she cries. As soon as he saw that at the
yeah.
end, we saw this morning. And both watched it, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And then it got even harder a month
Really
later.
well
And
done.
then we delayed the release because her brother passed away a month later.
Yeah, that was right down
And
the
then
street
that
from
was
us.
just a whole, and then even that was just like, maybe I shouldn't even put this out no more. Because it's just, cutting from her crying to a
'cause
picture of her brother and
yeah.
stuff like that. But I mean, that entire scene, that was my cultural appropriation scene. We made that up on the spot because
the jewelry out of the mouth, the whole thing.
those were from before. I had those planned out, more mapped out, and then I had a different scene. What I wanted, I'll tell you what the scene was. What I wanted to start with showing girls in dog collars, and I wanted them to be held. And then what I wanted it to be was because what I do in my videos is I show a scene, then I zoom out, and then the story gets clearer as to what I'm showing. I wanted to show a girl in a dog collar, and as it zoomed out, you see that her mother's holding a dog collar. So she's not an oppressed girl. She's a fucking pit bull that needs to be held back. And I wanted to be very violent to the camera. And then even some of the girls we were working with behind the scenes, they took issue to it as well.
Okay.
And there were a couple of other scenes that I wanted to do. And then people were expressing stuff like, well, the people that did your flowers scene, if they see that other scene, because they don't know what the rest of the scenes in your video are, they might get offended and they might want to pull out. So people started kind of projecting fears onto me. And that's the number one.
That's whack.
The number one obstacle for an artist is fear. And the thing is, even if you've surpassed the fear, somebody else is projecting their fear onto you. Like, oh, I think this is derogatory towards women. Oh, I think this is going to be seen too controversial. Oh, I don't think you can do this. What if we water it down, do X, Y, Z? And that's why I hang out with the Signologists of the world.
Prime example, the Childish Gambino video. Everybody's seen that. That was like insane, the visuals on that.
Completely. And I think you got to be around people that get it. And as well as I think I've been around long enough where I've done things, I've crossed lines, I've paid the price. I've taken financial hits because I've offended people. I've gotten death threats. I've fucked up relationships. I've fucked up opportunities. But the story plays out and you're still here. So I think my whole thing too is, I might cross a line once or twice, but I'll still be here. And that's my job as an artist. That's the only way we get progress is somebody's towing the line, pushing it a little bit, nudging us a little bit further every single day.
You're openly spoken about that. I mean, about some of the things that you've done, like women in specific. You said, you've hurt them, and you knew you were purposely hurting them at that time, mentally or whatever it was that was going on. But you kind of grew from those situations. You weren't afraid to say that I learned something from that, and I moved on and became a better person, or I did it because of this, and this is why I am who I am, kind of thing, and you've never shied away from that.
And I don't think we should, because I think the other thing too is it's like, man, we don't come out the box knowing anything, right? And that's the reason why there will forever be 10 million songs about heartbreak, because every single day a new person will experience heartbreak for the very first time, and it will be the biggest thing they've ever encountered. And I think
in a new way, man. And in a new way.
And in a new way.
In the last 5 years, people have been heartbroken in 5 years of new ways. Instagram, fucking Facebook,
Snapchat.
It's insane.
Yeah.
We never had that. Last
There's
time it
new
was
levels
like,
to it, yeah.
yo, can you come meet me over here? All right, cool.
1,000%. No, you're 1,000%. And I think when it comes to that is like, what you want to be able to do is share those experiences and share, whether you consider them a mistake or whether you consider them, growing pains. They have to be shared, and the reason they have to be shared is for other people to learn. Like, I learned from other people's mistakes. I learned from other people's stories. I understood myself better through other people's stories. I learned how to tell my own story through other people's stories. And the problem is, I was getting frustrated with all these people who had fear. I was getting frustrated because it was slowing things down. Certain people couldn't do things. They didn't want people to know certain things about them. And I respected it to a level, but it also slowed things down. So I go, okay, let me model the behavior. Let me put myself out there. Let me throw the first punch. Let me take the first L. Let me do all of that. And that's why I love Kanye West. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Every single day he's like, look how far you can go and things still won't fuck up. As long as you make dope shit.
Yeah.
And I think it goes, and that culture, that belief that needs to happen for any artist. Otherwise, you're going to just get a bunch of self-pity. Oh, my parents won't let me do this. Yeah, your parents shouldn't let you do this because you don't deserve to do it because you're scared. Like, you gotta take certain risks. You gotta do certain things, and you got to be okay with nobody else being okay with it. And then you'll find other people, and that's what I was doing. I'd already alienated myself from people in my immediate world. As not only did I alienate myself from people who weren't cool with it, I also projected that onto other people. Like, I didn't want people to know I was making music. I didn't want people to know I was trying to be an artist because I didn't want their judgments. Not realizing that, like, my sisters till today are active supporters. They push me. Like, my older sister's like, oh, 93.5 is doing Made in Toronto. You need to register. And I'm just like, man, paperwork? I don't.
She's a legit supporter.
She's a legit supporter. And I was
supporter.
like, and these are things I didn't even want to do. She's like, you have to do. Yeah. And realizing that it makes her happy to hear me at 93.5.
Yeah.
She bigs him up wherever. If she goes, she's like, just talks about him. That's it.
She really does, and she's run
supporter.
into she ran into Cardinal Official before I knew him. She was just trying to jam my stuff down his throat. She's always done that, and I didn't realize that in the beginning. I'm like, if they find out I do this stuff, they're gonna judge me, whatever. And some people did, but you gotta realize it's like it is what it is. They're projecting their own fears onto you. There's a lot of people. I met people, man, even till today. Guys were like, yeah, I used to rap. I could rap too, but then I went to law school.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, cool. Why am I hearing that story?
Do one of these.
I mean, well, in the city, you obviously took over in a sense from the music perspective, and you've done so many things. But moving
Before
forward,
we go over there,
yeah.
let's talk about what we're going to get him to talk about.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
So,
do you
Desi
remember?
hip-hop.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I was so in tuned into the conversation. What I was going to ask you was, you did Baggy, you did the more new track, you did La, which was sort of like Punjabi hip hop. You did some stuff with Harry Pannu.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You did the Maj music, Desi hip hop track. How come you never continued with the Desi hip hop stuff? Like, Fateh is doing it a little bit. Malton's coming up with it. Magic did a few tracks with Equals MC and Tej Gill, these guys, right?
Yeah.
But like, after a certain point, you just kind of like never seen Humble back with the Desi hip hop scene. And there's a big market. I know Baggy and shit like that was huge. I think you guys even toured India at one point.
Yeah, we did.
I'm saying this with all respect.
You already know let's give you.
Fuck Indian music.
No. I'm gonna say this with all respect. When I started, that wasn't in my head. That wasn't in my heart. That wasn't on my goal list. Then I went to England and I saw how much better their infrastructure was, and how at that point you just had to knock on the door and hand a CD, and there was a chance of you not only getting played on the BBC, you cashing in on that. Then I started going to the award shows, and I started seeing people act like their shit don't stink. I started seeing celebrities, big fish in very small ponds. Then when I went to India the first time, it was with the Medieval Pundits. It was through their English-speaking music festivals, and they really embraced me. Like, they said to me, they go, we didn't even know what rap was. We heard Baggy, we thought you were a punk rocker, and we loved it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, these guys get me. And I spent time focusing in that world, because that world was art first, creativity first, everything. Anytime I did something that was Desi and Punjabi, it was less work, much more reward. And what you see is it's kind of like you start to lean into the path of less resistance, right? But 16-year-old me was in the back of my head being like, how is any of this going to allow you to freestyle in front of Nas? How is any of this going to get you on a track with Jay-Z? How is any of this going to get you...
Well, don't get me wrong. It can if that's what you wanted to do and got to that level.
Well, from a creative business perspective, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about what happened with me was... And also the success of Le changed a lot of things as well. Because what happened was... I pretty much at that point said, probably 2012, 2013, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a Punjabi track once a year. I'm gonna do something with the England folks once a year. I'm gonna do something for Rexdale street motherfuckers. I'm gonna do something for everybody. Give them everything. And now I have 5 different hustles. And then I remember specifically in India, I tried to give them a video, and they were all like, "Oh, this ain't this ain't 1080p. This ain't this right format. We need you to do all these different things to the video." They're being real difficult about it. When LAC came out, I remember specifically editing that video in 720, and nobody had a problem playing it on TV. It played around on TV everywhere in the world. We charted on iTunes, and I was like, "Holy shit! If you just make shit pop off in America, it pops off everywhere." Mm-hmm. America is a tastemaker, sets the tone. Why doesn't everybody do this? Because it's fucking hard. You know what I mean? So I started realizing, I'm like...
Why did you edit in 720? I'm curious.
We shot in 1080, and then what I do is I edit it back to 720, so I have the
room to crop.
Room to crop.
Oh, okay.
Because sometimes mans gets dumb shit in the scene, and you gotta zoom in.
Okay, that might. That
So I just need to zoom in sometimes, zoom in, zoom out that way. Because if you edit in the same format you shoot, then what you got in front of you is what you got in front of you. Mm-hmm. And if you zoom in, it looks stupid, and it fucks up slow mo, it fucks up everything. So after that, I'm like, holy shit, this is the one thing. Like, focusing on the American market is one thing that I naturally wanted to do. Because I grew up, my parents both worked, and my grandparents were still in India when I grew up. So I went to daycare at the age of 2. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't speaking Punjabi as a kid. I was speaking English, and then I grew up with 2 sisters. So I grew up on pop music. I grew up on New Kids on the Block. I grew up on whatever they listened to. I grew up on, right? I never heard Tupac rap until he died. You know what I mean? Like, none of it. I was listening to alternative music in high school. Mm-hmm. So that was more me. Whether people appreciated it or not and thought, this guy's whitewashed, he's a coconut, he's an Oreo cookie, whatever it is, I can't control it. I didn't decide how I was born and how I was raised. And I learned English first, and I did really well with the language of English. I'm not embarrassed to say that. But so what happened was I saw how much easier, and I was encouraged by a lot of people. And first time, it was a music lawyer who had said it to me, like, "Look, man, you want to keep this going, you better make us 3 more boggies." And I really kind of hurt my heart to hear that. And I was just like, I ain't never making another one of these ever again. And I went fuck catchy music. I'm not even doing it no more. And again, I think it was just more so being in tune with recognizing, being a little bit older and recognizing, you start doing this now, you got to do it forever. And I want to do what I started doing, what 16-year-old me had fun doing, spent hours every single day after school doing, with no pay, no girls, no outside validation. That's the only thing that will be sustainable until I'm 70 years old. So, no disrespect to anybody. I still collaborate with Punjabi artists. I'm still going to as my network has increased and I have access to a lot of these artists, I'm still going to work with them and stuff. But having that career and doing like what Fateh did or what have you, to me, I understand why artists go that way. Mm-hmm. It's a path of less resistance.
Yeah.
But I'm doing all right in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Mainstream American music scene. That's what I dreamed of as a kid. That's what I'm going to continue doing. And they're all merging anyways now.
You see Fateh with his second album, it was all English, and it's kind of like he almost did it to get to what he wanted to do.
Even his first album
was
a good mix of it. Like his first album, I listened to it start to finish, and I was like, yo, this is
a good album.
Punjabi hip-hop like I've never heard it before.
Yeah. But because the thing too is hip-hop is the most accessible art and literary art in the world. It's the soccer of music. Because you don't need expensive equipment, you don't need training, you don't need nothing. You just need a story and a beat, whether it's your heartbeat or anything else.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all the languages in South Asia, most of the languages in India, or do all of these languages, they're designed for rhyming. So it works perfectly. And stories of the underrepresented, stories of the oppressed, there's no shortage of that in India. Mm-hmm. Hip-hop belongs in India. But it needs to be told, and in my opinion, those people should tell their story the way they need to tell it. I need to tell my story the way I need to tell it. And again, I will continue to do it, but having a full, time taking the desi route, rapping over tumbis every single day, that was not something I thought of. And I started to realize that it was going to put me in a world that I wasn't going to draw a lot of energy from.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think even with what you like, even when the music you put out, when we were in Chandigarh together, we did whatever, I forgot what club it was. Saw on those guys. Doing that club and playing the music that you actually made and wanted to make and showing in front of those people, they went buck.
They did.
And you had the right audiences for everything.
And I think I learned that going to India and seeing their English-speaking audience. And I think that was the thing.
India's still a good market.
India, it's a hub. India is a hub. I think it's more specifically the Punjab scene is a different story. India, and that's the thing. I was embraced by mainstream India independent music.
That's what's so impressive, I think, about the whole thing is that you've kind of selected what you wanted to do and which way you want to take your career, like wherever your passion kind of led you.
I don't know if I got to select it. I think, it goes back to your natural obsessions and your inklings. And you can do the other stuff, and you can, again, if it's easier. I look the part for Punjabi music. I can make more Punjabi music, but if you're not being yourself, eventually people pick up on it. Especially now, being in Toronto, where it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a fuck. Yeah. Like, you ask your average... My niece, when I showed her the hair video, there was zero reaction to the Lily girl on girl scene.
Wow. It's just normal, yeah.
Normal. Like, that's nothing. That's not something to be discussed. Like, that's not foreign to her.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
You feel what I'm saying? People are in love. They're in love.
Yeah.
They don't... And it's all the older generations and people of the past. And again, another enemy to art. People who believe that everything that happened yesterday is better than what we're able to do tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You know, they're fundamentalists of whatever. And again, I always say this for everything, for sports. Just fundamentalists for sports, man. No instant replay for soccer.
Yeah.
Don't make the blue line thicker in hockey. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Don't make the net higher. That
5 second shit that they did in America where you could like the puck
glowing puck. Yeah,
I didn't like that shit.
But that's some fundamentalist shit. They're trying to do something. But that's real talk. They're trying to do something new. It may or may not fail. But that's some creative being like, yo, how can I make this more accessible? To people?
It was a cool concept. It just I guess being Canadian.
So that's why I haven't actively pursued the Punjabi world, but I will never. It's not a rejection of it, but what I don't want to do is create just projects that are just going to work there. Especially now, I put in so much work, and as well as I had to eat off this.
Well, I don't think you had to.
When you couldn't make a lot of money
when you're
in India
performing at places like Lollapalooza. This guy right here has performed there. That's equivalent of Coachella. You know, he was on not your face, but your name was on the cover of Rolling Stones magazine. Whoa. Huge. BuzzFeed. Huffington Post, MTV, Times of India.
It's been good.
You know what I mean? Like, how does it feel when you're starting to get recognized internationally now? Like, India was one part of it, but now
I'll be honest. Recently, a couple of days ago, I went to a mixtape release party for a page here called Six Buzz.
Yeah.
So to me, these guys are easily one of the most important movements the city's ever had. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't grow up with no unified hip-hop scene like that.
Six Buzz.
These guys, right? So I connected with these guys, and some of their older cats are trying to, irrespective of what they have on their page, they're really smart guys trying to do some really important shit. So going to their mixtape release party and then seeing, being insulated from that, spending so much time in LA, and the type of love I got there that day from both really young Somali kids and industry people, all that type of shit. Like that, feeling like, yo, holy shit, I'm actually a part of Toronto hip hop. That feels better than being on a Rolling Stones, having my name on Rolling Stones,
100%.
Even Lollapalooza, because I was like, yo, this is the city that made me, and I am old enough to remember a time where nobody repped the city. Mm-hmm.
And for those guys that are from, I guess, I've never seen them, but they must be from the younger generation, right?
Yeah, and they
recognize that.
They put together a fantastic mixtape, and I think it's coming out on the 28th. So maybe by the time this is live, go find it, man. Six Buzz mixtape. It'll be on all streaming services, but these guys were able to get guys from warring neighborhoods on the same tracks.
That's crazy.
These guys.
This is relevant. I just want to know.
They got guys from Scarborough on tracks with guys from Jane and Finch. They got guys from like Flemington Park on tracks with people from like Regent Park.
Oh, that's dope.
I
think that's so important with what's going on in the city.
And that's the thing.
Now.
The thing, like the shit's dope. There's a responsible one older dude who's kind of handling the responsible side of it, but then it's curated by an anonymous youth. and he like I don't think I'd ever qualify. Like I don't think I'd pass their marker to get on those mixtapes.
Wow.
Like they got a certain
that
sound.
good, eh?
Well, there's a sound, a wave, and a feeling. Because these guys, this new generation is all genre bending. Everything's there isn't hip hop. So these guys sound like Kurt Cobain rapping.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's emotion. There's all this type of shit. I'm old. I can't. I can't rap about heartbreak the way a 17-year-old can. I can't rap about the struggles that they go through because they're young. They're going through that for the first time. But they got their engineer, Eastbound, fucking magic. He came up with Wonder Girl. They did it properly. The listening party was proper. Like it was curated, everything. So I was just like, yo, and just to feel welcome there, like I was welcome with open arms. I was like, that felt really good.
I wanted to ask you. You mentioned about writing about what you're experiencing at that time. With a lot of the stuff that you've written, is that all based on experience, or a lot of just thoughts on paper as well?
A lot of it was based off experience. A lot of it was based off. In the beginning, I was too scared to share my own life, so I thought that it would make it harder for me to write. So I'd write about other people's stories. Mm-hmm. I'd pick another person's story that I saw, I witnessed, and I would write about it. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was easier for me. But then as I got a little bit older and as Drake made it more socially acceptable, I started telling my own story.
So you stopped talking about JJ and the girls, and then it got to you and the girls.
Yeah. But I wouldn't write about JJ and the girls. I'd write from the girls' perspective how she has to deal with JJ. That's the story.
Moving forward from hip hop, which you've done a lot for and a lot with, you got into. It kind of seems natural now that we're talking about it, but you got into writing books. You've always been an avid reader. You've read tons and tons of books. You're talking about, you were just reading something, you referenced to something you read. What was the idea behind the Unlearned Series and kind of projecting your thoughts out to the world and telling people what you think and the way you think they should kind of deal with their issues or problems or, moving forward in life or trying to get motivated in life?
So there definitely wasn't any of that intention when I made this. Mm-hmm. It was, I quit my job. I didn't know how to make any money, and the music process is a lot more collaborative and a lot slower. You can only make so much music, and I can, JJ ain't always the easiest guy to get a hold of.
He never picks up his phone.
Yeah, but even if I got a hold of him, then trying to shoot a video, this is before I was editing, this is before any of that stuff. I wasn't self-sufficient in the music yet. I'm still not. That's why a guy like Russ deserves a lot of credit, because I should have taken his route, which was figure the shit out that you don't know how to do. And what it was is that's when I started my friendship with Lily, and she's like, yo, why don't you figure out something that you can do that you don't need other people's help? And that's what it was. So it was more out of a fear of like, I can't put nothing out. What do I do? So I started writing thoughts every single day on Facebook. And I just take pictures and things that I collected, my own personal folders, things I found inspiration on, and I just wrote about them. At the same time, I had quit my job of a safe, secure salary in a safe environment, a government job where nobody that I worked with saw me as an enemy. Nobody that I worked with saw me as competition. Everybody had my back. And then I went into entertainment where like the first people that saw that I had something going on, just trying to figure out how they can exploit it. I got tore up a lot of times. So that's where the idea of Unlearned came from. Like, what are these old ass ideas I gotta let go of? Everybody has my back. Everybody is good. Just because I'm a good person, people will treat me well. So I had to unlearn these ideas, and that's where that came from. But the book was actually a collection of those writings. I wrote for a whole year, and the top comments started being, you should write a book. And then I didn't write a book. I just took my favorite pieces of those blog posts or whatever back then, and I created a book from them. And then I learned how to build the book myself too.
And that was also the time you released your first physical piece of music, which was on a CD around the same time?
Yeah. So I crowdfunded it. Yeah, I crowdfunded the book and dropped the album with it.
It's crazy because, he went in total reverse. When music was only on CDs, available only on CDs and maybe YouTube or whatever, and then we graduated to MP3 and streaming music, this guy goes back in time and says, I'm going to release a CD now, and it was his first physical...
Because even today, there's still a market for physical, like for vinyls. Probably not CDs as much.
Well,
as
even
the
vinyls.
biggest
CDs.
vinyl collector. I just got
Yeah.
it.
I was in the car with a friend of Dolo's actually, and he had the new Eminem Kamikaze on CD. And I was like, dude, are you playing a CD? He's like, yeah, I went and I ordered it online or whatever. So there's people, you're right, there is a market for that are passionate that want to have the physical album, right?
It's actually coming back a lot bigger than you think. Cause like if you go to some of these stores now, there's like Drake, The Weeknd, people you expect that are not gonna have like vinyls and old playing media. People have it. Like I have Ed Sheeran or Sharon, whatever his fucking name is, on fucking vinyl. Why? I don't know. Just it's cool to have, and it's
Yeah, but that's just vinyl right now. Eventually, it's gonna be vinyl, and then it's gonna be CDs, then it's gonna be tapes. They're all gonna come back.
tapes are coming back as well. People,
Yeah, and it's not going to be
excited.
the market. It's not
No.
going to become a millionaire off that, but it's going to be. It's something that's of value.
Collectors.
Yeah, it's collector
Collector
stuff.
side,
Collector stuff. And I think so. For me, that's was the idea behind that.
And you mentioned that you did it because now it was a time where you were taking pre-orders, so you knew exactly how many CDs to print. So you're not printing a million CDs and having them stuck in
Yeah,
your
and,
room.
and that was always, even with the book, I did a print to order service, and that was always the fear. You print, and before this, I always had some sort of entrepreneurship element to me. I tried to start a clothing line years ago, before I was even rapping, and I still have the T-shirts in my basement
Dude,
now.
you should have brought them here, man. We would have.
Nah, these things were
What
weird.
was the clothing line called?
It's called Provoke.
Provoke.
Provoke clothing. And then I had one shirt that had the Godfather writing, and it said Gangsta, and on the back it said Pimp the System.
You got a trademark? Because a lot of people listen to the show, man.
No, that's all good. They can have it. But these are mine. I make these, right? I
Well,
make
'cause
a
in your
whole
basic
bunch. I don't.
for those
And I
that are
don't. You know what is
listening,
the irony? Is I don't have a name for this now.
Nice.
I don't have anything. Just buy them off HumbleThePoet.com. But I don't have like a clothing.
I like
and-
that. I like that easy
tag.
ass plug right there.
No, but even like I got tagged. Like on the back of my shirts, I have messages printed, like little paragraphs.
Oh, that's
Wow.
dope.
That's
That's
sick.
cool.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have the little messages, and then I have the size and like where it's made. I don't have a brand name yet, so I'm just like, all right. But you learn too. Like you just start, do it, figure it out. Maybe next show I'll have a name.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe next show I'll have an Instagram page for it, whatever, and then we'll figure all that stuff out. But I think it's more, it is organic because you're just making it up as you go. And I needed to. What it was is I had met an artist, and he's just like, look, man, I can do a show with 80 people in the room, but I can make more money than the headliner because I got stuff to sell at the end of the day.
That's crazy.
And I was like, yo, what can I sell so I can make it? And I needed to make money. I didn't have any other way to do it. And that crowdfunding, A, helped me earn some money, but B, taught me the importance of community, connecting with people, and asking for help.
And fun fact, if you look up his book on Amazon, it's actually commonly sold with Rupi Kaur's book as well. I guess that's just brown people supporting brown people. They
Word, man. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was the cool thing, too, because first time I ever heard of Rupi was Selena connected us because she wanted to know how to self-publish. And then I got back, and I'm like, hey, like, we'll jump on a call. And she's like, oh, I figured it out. She goes, yeah, get any other tips? And I remember I'm like, yo, writing the book is easy compared to selling the book.
What
So,
would
like,
you
good
tell
luck.
people that are listening that have those thoughts that they need to get out on paper and they want to do something kind of artistic, whether it's music or book? How can they get their music? It's something I actually mentioned to you, and the reason I wanted you on is because people always, I don't know why they message me and they think that maybe I might have an outlet to put stuff out. Like, how can I get my music heard? How can
Because they got that gatekeeper mentality. That's so the irony of it is this. It will be hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that JJ and KSR they do have the power to get people discovered. They do have the power to take somebody from obscurity to a certain level. Because I've been around these guys forever when they didn't have that power. And that's the better way to do this. Find people who are obsessed with what you're doing and come up together, and then everybody will have that same power. Because the gatekeeper mentality is how people get exploited.
I keep thinking about Jessie Reyes,
Jesse Reyes.
Gatekeeper.
Yeah, she has that song
Yeah.
Gatekeeper, yeah.
That guy got booked, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely booked.
I heard that
And she
song
came out.
prompted it.
Hold on, you guys
Jesse-
got to explain what you guys
Jessie
talking about
Reyes
there.
has a song called Gatekeeper where she was in a car with a guy who basically had the links to get everything done and basically said, yo, open your legs and I'll
Oh.
make it happen. She wrote a song about it, never mentioned the guy's name. Years went by.
I think that inspired other people who had a similar experience. I think
Yeah.
they recognized it was him just through the story.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
then that guy got booked.
That's
and then
it.
she put it out there like, yeah, if any of you guys who were wondering, that's the guy I was talking about.
Was this somebody from the Me Too movement?
I don't know. I don't know who exactly who it was, but
I don't know, but yeah, it was one of those.
Crazy.
So-
but that's the whole thing. So the whole thing is like, yo, you got a podcast, you guys got more Instagram followers, whatever, put us on. Like, that's the whole idea. But the thing is, if you say that to somebody who has those, their natural first thought's gonna be like, what's in it for me? Right? And it may not be sexual exploitation, it could be financial exploitation.
Yeah.
It could be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna take 95% of the royalties off the song, you get 5%, but I'm gonna expose you. That's the big one. You get exposure. Because what you're looking for is an escalator or an elevator up, because you don't want to take the stairs or you don't want to climb on the side of the wall. I'm not going to pretend that I didn't have that mentality. It's just that stuff rarely works out. And while you're doing that, you naturally have to work and you start making the progress yourself.
I think that's the important part there that a lot of people don't understand is, okay, fine, you know, I know Humble the Poet, I want to be a rapper, he puts me on his page, his Instagram, whatever, but that's not the end of it. I still got to work after that. I still got to make more music and follow up with that and keep working.
You know, like that Atlanta episode, have you guys watched the show Atlanta, when they're at the Drake party?
Nah.
I've seen season 1, so
There's a whole episode about people going to a Drake party because they just want to get an Instagram photo with Drake.
I've seen that episode.
Yeah. And then the spoiler alert is it turns out that Drake's not even at the house.
Yeah.
And all these girls that have been Instagramming is with a cardboard cutout. But even once they realize the cardboard cutout, they still pay $20 to get it done because it helps their clout.
Yeah, it blows my mind. This guy right here, shot by Dolo behind the camera. Whether he likes it or not, I'm gonna tell the story. But when Drake was first blowing up, he's got mutual friends, and they asked him to come on tour to shoot with them, take pictures, shoot, whatever. For whatever reason, I don't know, he didn't go. And I've always said, fuck, he's an idiot. You know, he should have gone and whatever. And he was like, no, it just wasn't what I wanted to do at that time. It wasn't for me. And so he's stuck with his craft, and he's building still.
Yo,
today.
that's the shitty thing. That's what I saw in Hollywood. I saw so much of it. People who are getting a lot of money, being very successful, doing stuff they hate.
Yeah.
And that just sucks. What's the difference between that and working in a cubicle? There's no difference.
100%.
You're in a cage, right? So I think there's a lot of people that, Bryson Tiller said no.
But a lot of people are after it for the wrong reasons. Like
I don't know if it's the wrong reasons. I think it's they're in it for a feeling. They're not in it for the fame. They're in it for the feeling that's going to come with fame. And what's that feeling? That feeling that this is going to fix everything that's wrong with me if I'm famous. But the reality is, and I said this a million times, if you got mental health issues, if you have that, fame is the salt to the wound. It's not the bandage.
No.
It's just going to take that and it's going to amplify it.
And it's funny, he always has these things on Instagram. You guys all follow him too, so you know. And I actually commented on something he wrote on Sunday morning, and it was something about, you know, if you it's not about just setting goals and then trying to reach them. It's about every day getting up and doing something. You know, what did you do to reach your goal today? And I was laying in bed, I was hungover after our party, and I read that, and I was like, shit, I have so much I gotta do right now. And I messaged, I was like, that really hit me in the gut right now. Like, I need to get up and do something. I got up and I started doing something, you know, and I started learning something that I'm trying to learn right now.
And that's the big challenge that I don't say it's a challenge, but that's the big thing that I'm facing now is that I came from the suck it up culture. Even when I was at my lowest, I printed up a bunch of posters and quotes to inspire me. And there were things like, yo, suck it up, sink or swim. You want a vacation? Go get a day job. You want to rest? Fucking die. Like, I just say very intense things. And I still have the posters.
Yeah.
And those were all up in my condo when I was trying to figure out my shit when shit hit the fan for me. And realizing that is actually Jim Carrey. I saw an interview say recently. He goes, yo, you can't tell everybody to sink or swim. Some people need to be taken care of. And, you know, putting that message out with such a large audience now is you always hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And you can no longer simply be like, fuck, these people are sensitive.
Yeah.
Because they're at different stages. I'm not speaking from a 17-year-old perspective no more.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember what would 17-year-old me say if I said that. But at the same time, I'm okay with it because I think I'm appreciating my niche, because I do feel like the people who are connecting with a larger audience are connecting with them on things that I consider unhealthy. And a lot of it is self-pity. And I think you see a lot of people whose quotes are about like, oh, I trusted you and you tore my heart. And 7 million likes. Like, you're encouraging people to feel sorry for themselves.
100%.
And I'm not a fan of that.
Well, you speak strongly about censorship and being politically correct. Like, what do you feel about that? About, you know, saying what you actually feel and putting that out there?
Well, you have the freedom to say whatever you want, but you have to respect causality. You know, I can say whatever I want, but I have to respect somebody might punch me in the nose.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand
causality.
that. I never heard that word before.
Causality,
That's
like just
yeah.
consequence. But that came from that humble. from day one of Humble the Poet, I always imagined, why would anybody talk shit? You're gonna go to a party and get jumped. Like, that was reality for me. When I saw anybody try to act, like, why would you act tough in your music?
Rexdale.
Yeah, because that's where I was from. You don't act tough unless, like, somebody will be excited at the idea of testing you if you act tough. Right? So I was never trying to make that come across in my music. All my aggression came from a place of activism and passion for that type of stuff. And it's the same thing with this. Like, you can speak now, but there's new consequence. I don't have to worry about getting punched in the face, but I can worry about, you know, losing a corporate sponsorship, which I have. I can worry about losing a tour, which I have. I can worry about not getting paid, which has happened because of things that I've said and things that I've done.
So you've actually lost big sponsorships.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think people understand though. Like this, like just talking about sponsorships, big deals. Humble's talked to, just had conversations with people you'd wish you could have a conversation with, which I'm going to let him explain. I'm just going to name drop 2 people. And he's had deals with people you wish you would have deals with. This guy's had a deal with Apple. Crazy.
Actually, no, they did a
Apple
commercial.
Music.
Yeah.
I seen that.
So those who know, but I would feel like a lot of people, even though they know, they might forget or they might, like, they just don't, they're not aware that Humble's doing it.
That was the iPhone.
Because I'm
or
not
something
releasing
like that,
music
right?
once a week.
And the second thing is, this guy's had a full-on conversation. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it, but I think I am. You've had a full-on conversation with Pharrell
I heard
and
that.
George Lucas.
You talked to Pharrell?
Pharrell looked into my soul, bro.
What?
He looked in. I didn't talk to him. Like, I first started talking to him, then at one point he was like, "Yo, why are you asking me all these questions? What are you struggling with?" And I was just like, "What?" And then he started talking to me.
Really?
Yeah. And then later on, he told me, he's like, "Yo, your purpose in life is not to make music. Your purpose in life," and he hadn't heard any of my music, so I didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
Because your purpose in life isn't to make music. Your purpose in life is to ask questions. But I recently also had a conversation with Kaepernick, and that was dope.
Yeah.
And then I also had a much longer conversation with George Lucas, an hour conversation with him.
Yeah, this guy spoke to the guy who made friggin' 9, movies of Star Wars?
Six.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
6, whatever the fuck it is.
We have to respect him. These last 3 aren't his, and he doesn't want to be attached to them. Don't
Even
even.
Kaepernick, who's done incredible things by standing up and kind of speaking for something. He gave up his whole career basically to stand for something he believes
And
in.
and the thing too is,
And he's
speaking to
winning.
him, and like that's the first question I asked. I'm like, did this go overboard for you? And after talking to him I talked to him for about 20 minutes, but in the first 5 minutes, you realize he really didn't have a choice. He had seen too much, experienced too much, where he couldn't live another day being or saying anything different than what he did. And because this stuff impacted him personally. This stuff didn't just impact. He wasn't trying to be a social justice warrior.
Yeah.
This stuff impacted him, his immediate family, people he cared about, people in his community. And he's like, what's the point of being anything else if I can't speak about this stuff? So when all that shit hit the fan for him, he was just like, it is what it is. I have to suffer the
That's
consequences.
big though, man. Losing a lot.
But yo,
Man,
In the
Gambino
short
obviously
term. But
did
a lot,
that's
man.
the big thing you gotta realize. It's a temporary hell.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
Well, last season, everybody's like, he's an idiot. What's he doing? And then now that Nike picked it up, oh, he's a hero. He's a great guy. You know,
It's
you know
both
what?
ways.
People are
man.
so
Both
funny to
ways. Yeah,
flip-flop.
there's so many haters
people
too.
are burning
Yeah.
their Nikes and shit. People
Well,
lighting
that's
that stuff on fire, right?
That's some
a certain-
isolated shit, but I
Yeah.
think even more important than the Nike thing is you got to realize this man is in a lawsuit with 32
NFL.
billionaires.
The
32
NFL owners,
different
yeah.
billionaires.
Yeah.
So
shit.
And it's continuing as well.
Nike is keep afloat, pay your lawyer money. Not
Yeah.
to mention how many prominent people in the community have probably helped him as well. But you're in a lawsuit with guys who have been caught emailing each other, conspiring against you.
Yeah.
And these guys are
'Cause
billionaires.
he's a good player, and there was
and now
no
all of
reason
a
for
sudden,
nobody not to pick him
all of a
up.
sudden, 2 teams want him back.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all money motivated at the end of the day with those guys too,
It's
right?
different,
They
yeah.
see Nike picked it up. Nike stock is at a year high, you know, and everybody's.
But
now
and
back
I
on
think I
board.
learned that too. You start partnering with these bigger companies, and,
Yeah.
and shout outs to Nike.
I almost feel like Nike. Yeah, shout out to Nike,
a good
but I feel
move.
like them and NFL kind of conspired together because the NFL was taking a big hit on their ratings, on people watching. Now that Nike got involved and kind of said, okay, well, we're going to support Kaepernick. Now they're combined, and now
I don't
the heat
think
is-
so. I think
'cause you don't feel the heat is kind of off the
Nike-
NFL a little bit.
Nike has a good history of backing the guys.
That's
that
true.
people
And
like-
Nike's
yeah.
they signed the NFL deal first, like a big deal. Then they did this shit. So
they had it planned out.
They
yeah.
secured that. Yeah.
You gotta also remember, like Jordan wasn't allowed to wear his shoes when he
That's
played.
right.
That's
NBA
$5,000.
would not
They paid a fine every
What?
game.
Every single game.
Every game they paid a
Yeah.
fine.
and now Jordan was the official brand at the All-Star game. So the thing is, I got to take a tour of the Nike headquarters in Portland. In April, and legitimately, you start to realize that the culture there is learn the rules to break them. Legit.
Just do it.
Like what? Even within, bro. Even within, I met the dude who's in charge of their top seven influencers. So the guy who's in charge of sending shoes to LeBron, Cristiano Ronaldo, all these guys, and he was telling a story about how he had to do a pitch. It was him versus another team that had to pitch a shoe, and the rule was no prototypes, so only sketches. You can pitch the shoe with sketches. So he showed up with sketches, did his presentation. Then the second team came up and they had a prototype done, and then they got it. The second team won. So he went to his boss and he's like, "Yo, you said no prototypes. Why'd you guys give it to them?" He's like, "It's your fault for following the rules."
Oh wow,
that's internal Nike shit.
That's
crazy.
That's their culture. So when you hear that and then you hear them back in Kaepernick, you're like, "This is culture."
Yeah.
Right?
That makes more sense.
And now I'm realizing that, like, messing with Indigo, like, Indigo is the reason they're successful. In 2018, a successful, profitable bookstore, they're successful because they push the love of reading. They don't push the love of books. They push the love of reading, and they're like, yo, go get yourself some reading candles and reading socks and create a reading environment and reading pillows. But that shit sells, and it works. And now they're moving into the States.
What the fuck are reading socks?
Reading socks are the most comfortable socks you can ever get. Yo, you guys want to get a gift for a girl? Go to Indigo, get reading socks.
That's some game from Humble right there, all you guys.
They are warm. They are thick. They're made of like 3 sheep. I don't know what they are. They're just super thick.
I don't know why I have a feeling that's gonna be the intro to
reading
the
socks.
Video. The reading socks.
I got. Speaking of books, I got a question for you. So, like you said, Indigo creates that whole environment. For me, I don't like reading books. I like listening to books. How come none of your stuff is?
It is.
He did.
He did it already.
I
did it already.
I went to JJ's studio once, and this guy's just sitting there reading.
The saddest
saddest
moments
moment
of my life.
Is it out? Is it out already? The audiobook?
I can't
Yeah,
get
I have to redo it now too.
Why?
Oh.
Because I signed with the majors.
Yo, can we get a shout out for Humble signing with the majors, man?
100%.
Everybody make some noise for that. Okay,
So you know what more is? It's
Let me know when. I'll catch you an invoice.
Tell us this.
By all means.
What's better, rap money or book money?
Book money.
All day.
Way more.
Dope.
Because book money is like old rap money. There's advance checks. There's
The residuals.
You know what it is? Coming from the digital space, it's the digital space is it went from like Lily redefined YouTube, the entire culture, by dropping 2 videos a week. Now it's changed to people dropping 3 videos a day.
When she walks in YouTube, do they roll out a carpet for her?
They used to.
They used to.
Now YouTube is they love the movie stars.
Oh, okay.
Now YouTube's got The Rock and Will Smith and all these guys.
And
they used to.
Will Smith's killing
They changed.
it on YouTube
They
right
changed
now.
the culture of YouTube changed as
is
well.
Lily signed to The Rock?
No,
No. Does he have anything to do with her career?
her mentor.
Just mentor. Okay. Because I know that they had some sort of a relationship in sense business wise, but
What he is he is he's the goalpost that shows you how far you can make it in a shady ass industry and not be a shady person.
No.
He's the blueprint for how to become the highest paid person in Hollywood and not be a dick and not be a shady person and not exploit anybody. So he's that straight line path that you can see. All it really boils down to is an unhealthy work ethic.
Yeah.
But that's what it's saying with Lily. The reason she's able to go so far is just it's a work ethic that's it's not human.
I always read in your guys' comments. I gotta ask you, what do you gotta say to all the people that say, "Why haven't you married Lily yet?"
Give it a week.
All right, I think we're at that point.
Yeah,
we're at
I
that
think we
point
are.
now.
We are.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
I think after this, what we're gonna do right now is not Punjabi Shazam. It's just gonna be Shazam.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
It's
little
gonna be
bit more
hip-hop
different.
Shazam.
Thank you for accommodating.
Yeah,
my
we know
lack of
Humble
knowledge.
doesn't know probably anything past Bindara or
So
maybe Khalid
is
Monik.
my belt up for grabs or
100%.
what?
The belt is
It's
still-
up for grabs.
We're all Punjabi. It's still Shazam.
So what we're gonna do right now, I say we take a little bit of a
Yeah.
break.
Do you want to
play-
hear that song you mentioned?
I will.
Yeah.
I think we should listen to
Well,
that song
let's listen to that.
while we
Right?
prepare it.
I will.
I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So make that happen.
I'm like 5 bags in.
And then we'll
Yeah.
get right back into Punjabi.
I swear
set.
it's gay.
Before we go, Humble, just a couple inspiring words for some of the listeners who are listening that feel that there's no hope, like the guys we said that were about to give up, that almost didn't make it. What do you got to say to them about reaching their goals?
Yo, best way to put it is one of my homeboys is a head anesthesiologist at a hospital in Hamilton. Okay, 10 years of being broke, 10 years of him just being a student, eating fucking ramen noodles, all this type of shit. He just started making his doctor bag 2 years ago. No, a year ago. Last summer is when he started making his doctor bag. I was talking about this with a friend. If somebody says, I'm going to go to med school and I'm not going to make real money for 10 years and I'm going to be broke for 10 years after university, so I'm going to start at 25, 26 or whatever, it's acceptable. But if somebody tells you, yo, I'm going to be an artist and it's going to also take me 10 years to become middle class with this shit.
If that, right? It's scary because there isn't because at least with med school, as hard and as difficult as it is, there is a clear pathway. You know what the route is. You know what
the light's there at the end of the.
You know what the checklist is. You might fall off. You might fail this test. You might fuck up on this rotation. But you know the thing. With what we do, that doesn't exist. All I can tell you to do is you got to stop thinking about the pot of gold. You need to have so much fucking fun on the rainbow. And I learned that from Childish Gambino. I got to hang out with him once years ago, and I didn't get it until this year.
Listen to the
That's
names.
fucking crazy.
Listen to the
But check this out.
names.
That was in 2012. He said this to me, and it didn't connect with me until this year.
Dude,
I was
60
trying to
years
impress
ago.
him. I was trying to be all fucking. I'm an elite rapper. I'm this and that, and I was saying all this shit about who my favorite rappers were, and he was like, "Yeah, I saw Eminem rap for the first time, and he was the first guy to ever make it look fun." So I started rapping. So I was like, "You just started rapping because it looked fun?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the only reason I started rapping." And it never occurred to me.
And I can hear his voice. Saying
Yeah,
that,
Yeah.
right.
And it never occurred to me how important it is to chase the fun.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't chase the fun, it's not, and it's not about it being the right way or the wrong way. Think about sustainable versus not. If you're doing it because it's fun, it'll be sustainable. And the thing is, if you found your natural obsession, every time you hit a roadblock, you get excited.
So when my mom slapped me and said I can't do it,
That won't be an issue. But I'm even talking about, let's say you guys for this podcast, all of a sudden you guys can't figure out why there's feedback in the ears. This guy's gonna get excited over that shit.
Yeah.
Buddy,
Just solve the
first off,
problem.
that's never gonna happen.
Never happened.
But I saw that even as well. I saw that with my accountant. When I started getting book royalties, he's like, yo, you get money in pounds, you get money in euros, you get money in American dollars and Canadian dollars. I've never done that before. He smiles. He's like, this is gonna be cool. A guy like me, I'll curl up on the floor because that's not my shit.
uh-huh.
Figure out you are never going to live a life that is problem free. You solve one problem, you're going to create a new problem. So create a life where you're excited to solve the problems. That's all you have to do. Then all this other shit doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It didn't matter to me what my parents thought about this. My mother, her trajectory of my entire career was, you're going to quit your job to do this? But how are you going to make a living? Then I quit my job. Okay, you had your fun. Go back to work. Why are you throwing away such a good job?
Yeah.
So then I started showing her the checks when the good checks came in. Without even a hesitation. You know money means nothing. What about kids? What about a wife? What is all this worth? I was like, how did the narrative change from are you going to make a living once and I'm talking about like recently. I showed her a check recently. That's her reaction every single time.
Okay, so I mean, it's been a great episode, very informative. Humble spit, mad knowledge.
Me and Coulthard got into beef over the break.
Me and JJ got into it a little bit. My cup.
Can you guys leave a comment if you guys think the podcast gets too long? Is it that the podcast gets too long or that the guests get too boring?
I feel like it's good. An hour and a half.
I think it's good time too. I don't know if my guest to my left think the
We
same
said
thing.
an hour and a half. You guys are saying like 3 hours.
We get it. You're a
I'm
little
saying
bit
there
older
shouldn't
than
be a
us.
time
The
limit.
attention span is not. No, I'm kidding.
I
You
think-
know,
I don't think
Thought he
people-
make an executive decision.
Thought
We're the
he's-
ones that edit it.
We're like almost the same age.
I don't think you guys should be editing in the first place too. Just let it roll.
My whole thing is if the content's good, just let it ride.
Yo-
Like, don't even put a cap to it.
How are
But
you guys
obviously if
listening
it's
to
shit,
podcasts? podcast.
Like-
How are you guys? Are you guys sitting there like, all right, I'm going to devote an hour and a half to listening to the podcast today?
No, we edit it.
You're doing
That's
it
how we listen to
passively.
it.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about other people's podcasts.
Yeah, like when I watch it, yeah, you're passively exactly.
Like
yeah.
I'm driving in my car, I'm listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
When I turn off the car, the podcast shuts off, and then I'll pick up on it later.
And my whole
Yeah.
thing is it's about what the podcast is about. So like when I'm a big follower of Drink Champs. So when I see a rapper that I really like, I almost hope that they're longer because I want to know more about the artist and all that.
That's for me as a fucking ADD kid. That for me is what I want. I want to watch something that's like half an hour, and I'm like, fuck, that was only
This
an hour
way-
long, and then. I'm
You want them to
begging
want more.
I want
You want them
more.
to want more.
Yeah.
However, if
you want-
it's,
JJ wants them to
if it's
beg.
like Hans Zimmer, I bet you'll do. You sit there for 3 hours.
I would personally. I
That's
would,
the point.
Right?
But
True,
I
true
would-
School. A couple of these guys you would watch.
No, but that would be my own time. Be like, can I call you? Can I call you afterwards? Can I have a sit down with you afterwards?
That's weird.
All right.
All right.
Let's-
I'm for that.
What are you doing after?
all right, M, since you're the reigning champ, introduce the game.
It's usually Punjabi Shazam because Humble is a rapper. We're going to do hip hop Shazam.
He's so sad while he's saying that.
And I am because I think I'm going to lose today, and I hate losing, but it's okay. You know what? I'm still going to be a good sport, and I'm still going to play with you guys.
And hey, if
Get
you,
past
if you
the
learn
fear.
anything from him, think
it.
like a winner, man. Come on.
You know what? Just for any clients listening, I can still play hip hop music. It's just I'm not.
We were gonna bring Humble's 4-year-old nephew with him to
I'll,
compete with you.
I will bring him. But you know what? He deserves to come when we have somebody. Like if you guys have somebody. worth
Oh, we'll have
impressing.
some people. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But I'll let you
know.
I was thinking about that because obviously, like, I try to make stuff happen for my family once in a while too, and like, sometimes I meet people that
Who's his favorite singer?
probably Musawala.
Oh man,
Last
Shabadolo was that one too.
Last time I asked, like,
I'm
last
gonna bring
time.
my nephew up from Musiala as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the whole office is gonna be full for
He's
Musa.
like
But you know what?
Yeah.
But you know what it is? Wait, he'll impress you guys. I'm not even kidding. Like he's Rain Man with this shit. I am
Oh,
not. I'll put
shit.
money on this kid. It's bananas.
We might do the side bets that day. M versus the 4-year-old.
Musiala's not confirmed yet,
Challenge
so
right
just
there.
stay tuned.
All right, so we got Bmagic, your girl's favorite rapper,
Yes,
on
sir.
the ones and twos. He's becoming a DJ now, but he's gonna help us out today. Thank you for coming and always supporting. He's a good friend of the show as well. He's got his own podcast with him and
Shout out
Noyz.
to that.
Immigrant
Gumbo
Hustle.
Studios.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we're gonna make sure we support that as well. We're gonna start off with track number 1. It's hip hop. I might win it today unless Humble.
I don't
So
even
if
know
you
what
guys
it is.
don't
How do you
know,
play?
if you guys
Oh,
don't
sorry,
know how
yeah.
this works, really simple.
I'm gonna just hold my belt
He
for the last few
plays.
seconds.
He plays literally like a zzz of a song, like half,
A
not even a
snippet.
friggin' second, like a quarter of a second of a beat, only a quarter of a second,
I'll try.
and you have to because
Okay.
otherwise we'll get it. And
I don't know.
first one to shout it out, boom, gets that title, gets that one.
Okay, so you just
point.
shout it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just shout out the track name. If we both
And-
shout it out or two people shout out at the same time, you got to name the artist.
And it's on Guggen and Dolo to figure out who it is.
If
got it
there's
first.
like a tie.
If there's a tie.
All right.
All right,
So we ready to go?
Bmagic, play that first track.
Okay, first one's easy.
I get
I
money.
get money.
50 Cent.
I said it.
I'd say KSR got
I
that
had that
one.
as well, man.
I thought JJ got it, but okay,
He
KSR
did.
got it.
He yelled
do you have
it.
to, do you have
Yeah.
to say the artist?
Artist. He got the artist.
I said
though.
I get
No,
money
I
to
said
the
I
side.
get money.
I get money first, but
And
you
he
said
got the
the
artist.
He
voice.
yelled it. I said it though.
Yeah, no, it's the track name
Should
first
we
and
tie
then
that?
artist.
Tie game? Tie
No,
game?
I think KSR got it.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
fine.
gonna give
We'll
it to
give it, we'll give it, we'll give it,
KSR.
we'll
All
give it.
right,
I
okay.
think it.
So
I
that's
think-
how quick it is, Humble. So it's literally that split. You actually you guessed it
No,
as
no,
well.
I'm.
He
But
guessed it
I
as
was
well.
also trying to because he also played the sample. So I'm like, yo, who's the original?
Oh,
It's not
shit.
that- it's not
Hip hop head.
All right, track number 2, Bmagic. Let's go.
That
If I ruled the world, Lord help.
that didn't even play in
Hold
my
on,
ears.
I gotta put it a little bit longer.
That's not playing in our ears.
Percocet,
Mask off,
Future,
mask off, mask
Future,
off,
Future.
Future.
Mask
oh,
off.
man.
Oh, he said it?
I got it.
He got it.
Yeah,
He got it.
I said
Humble the
Percocet.
pause.
You know what's funny? I just wrote a rhyme to that. So the second I heard the beat, I started doing my shit. I'm like, who's
Yo,
fucking beat with that?
just play that same one again.
I hear it.
Dude, I said Percocet.
Yeah,
You
now
can't
I
hear
do.
it?
Now I do.
Oh, it's
now
good.
Yeah, you
it
get
wasn't. It wasn't playing.
Damn, I thought I had it.
Yeah.
Why you guys sabotaging KSR out here,
Sorry,
man?
sorry.
All of a sudden, I
we
can't
got
hear
1-1.
anything.
Humble's got 1, KSR's got 1. Bmagic, third track of the night. Let's go.
All right.
But Cardi B.
Fuck.
Shout out to
Yellow.
Tiger Paw.
Bodak Yellow.
Is it?
No.
No, it's ASAP Ferg.
Raindrop.
No.
Drop top.
Suck a
No,
nigga,
no.
nigga song. That
It's,
one, I don't know the name of that song.
No, hold on.
Ride
I
with
got
the
it.
mob.
Wait.
ranks.
Huh?
Oh, you fucker. Yo, man, I just can't remember the track name. I had it.
I'm from the iPod Shuffle generation. We never learned the track
Yo, I
names.
think
Yo,
that's the
right?
only point I'm gonna get on the
iPod
happy.
Shuffle, bro.
If I got ASAP Ferg, I don't get it? No? I got to get
No,
the track
you're
name?
done, buddy.
God damn. Shabba ranks. All right, let's go.
All right,
No,
ready?
4-track. This 4-track. He's got 1,
Okay.
2, 3.
So this is ones across the board.
yeah.
All right, we ready?
I don't know what that is.
No.
Ride with me, ride with
Rosa
me, ride
Parks.
with me.
Rosa Parks Outcast. Yeah.
How did you not get that?
How did you?
No, I have a delay, bro.
Right?
No, in my brain. Not on the
We're
audio.
stoners, man. It can't help it.
That's like I remember being a little kid
man.
having flashcards, addition, subtraction flashcards, and they put like 2 plus 2. You're like,
All right, then. I don't think this has ever happened. We got ones across the board. We got all 4 of us. with one.
Hold on. I don't think Thotty's ever had a point.
Yeah, make some
clap it
noise
up,
for that.
clap
Come
it
on,
up.
guys. Let's make some noise for that. I don't hear
this
enough
is like
noise. I don't hear
reflexes.
enough.
This is
Not enough noise. Nobody cares.
All right, 5th track, and we might have to pull up some new ones. All right, let's go.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Oh, shit.
Wow. Everybody has 1 point. This
Dude.
has never happened.
That was a good
So
one,
yo,
man.
the next point is taking this all.
All right, so
All
the
right.
6th
It's gonna
song
be a
takes all.
Six song takes it all.
Clear
This is,
winner.
all right, let's just make this clear. This has never happened before
One
on Punjabi
point.
Shazam. 1 point across the board for everybody.
It's not Punjabi Shazam today, okay? Do not
Shazam.
hey, it's Shazam with a bunch of Punjabis, bro.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I said.
I like
All
it.
right, let's go. Winner takes all.
1, 2, 3.
I couldn't even hear.
I couldn't even hear that,
Oh,
bro.
I'm sorry.
Who's that peeking through the room? Cell Therapy, Goody Mob.
There you go.
That Goody Mob tattoo, don't fuck around. Don't fuck around.
If you didn't get that one, man, I was
Hold
about
on.
to be mad.
Actually, I didn't.
Don't say Travis Scott. Don't say Travis Scott.
All right, let's make some noise for Humble the Poet taking the bell home. Let's go. Let's go.